Exciting news, everyone. Do Go On is coming to Europe in November 2024.
Shows are selling out, Dave. Is that true?
Oh my gosh, they are. These are the cities we're coming to. Berlin, sold out. Edinburgh, sold out. Belfast, Dublin, Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, Bristol, sold out. London, not sold out, but it will sell out.
That and those ones in the middle that you didn't say sold out to, were you at the end of the list saying they were all sold out, or some of those weren't sold out?
Yeah, that was confusing, Dave.
I know those ones in the middle are not sold out, but a lot of them are very, very close. For example, I'm looking at you, Leeds. About 10 tickets left.
Oh, okay.
So if you and 9 of your friends were hoping to come along, but you're just sort of dilly-dallying on booking the tickets.
Oh my God, are you talking directly to me? Because yes, that is my situation.
Book those tickets, babe.
Okay. Well, unless anyone else is about to, I'll do it in the next 5.
And Matt will be jumping on our website to do so at dogoonpod.com. We hope to see you there, Europe baby.
That was like a Europe baby.
Oh, la, la. Oh, wah. Oh, wah, wah.
To get people excited about Boost Mobile's new nationwide 5G network, we're offering unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month.
Forever.
Even if you have a baby.
Even if your baby has a baby.
Even if you grow old and wrinkly and you start repeating yourself.
Even if you start repeating yourself.
Even if you're on your deathbed and you need to make one last call.
Or text.
Right, or text the long-lost son you abandoned at birth.
You'll still get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile.
Forever!
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Forever!
Hey, Prime members, are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Do Go On. My name is Dave Warnicky, and as always, I'm here with Matt Stewart. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Dave. So good to be here. So good to be alive.
I agree. Not positive in question this week. Just
What? You didn't hear the upward inflection at the end? How good is it to be alive?
Also
I might have missed
how helps there, yeah.
Yeah.
And joining us this week to speak about how good it is to be alive, it's Wil Anderson.
It is so good to be alive. I don't know why you asked me to say that before the podcast, then just stress that it was really good to be alive.
We need that on tape.
Yeah, you said that, which I thought was a weird way to start the podcast, but they said to me beforehand, if you could just read this statement in front of me, it is good to be alive. There's a little accent on it, which I don't know if that's...
No, you nailed it. Yeah, okay. That's it.
Right.
Well, it's pretty important for us to have that we've been missing that Jess energy for a while, so that's why we've got you in.
Thank you.
Yeah, to make up
for that. What
aspect
aspect of the Jess energy do I bring to the table?
Well, just your joie de vivre.
No, absolutely not. And I think you knew that you weren't.
I think it was. Yeah. It didn't even take long before I knew as well. It was the very first syllable. Oh, I've gotten off to the wrong start here. But yeah, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you bring that in spades.
Thank you.
Yeah, basically calling out Matt's bullshit's what we need you to do, and you've already done it. So thank you.
Great.
Yeah, you did that very comfortably, actually.
Well, it's nice to be here. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. And is it true that you're getting the old band back together? As much as if you've ever had a band, Adam and Wil.
Yes, that is true.
How exciting is that?
I mean, it genuinely is exciting. So 20 years ago, we stopped doing the Triple J breakfast show, and I'm the sentimental one in these relationships. So I'm one of those people who takes note of when anniversaries of things are, like the passing of time. And so I messaged Adam, and it's rare that when you worked with somebody so closely, and look, this is an insight into your future, just something for you. It's rare that people who worked in these intense environments still talk to each other 20 years after you stopped talking to each other. And the fact that we still do, I thought was worth noting. And I thought, you know what, our final show was at Manning Bar at Sydney University. I thought, why don't we do a little show to I guess, just commemorate the final show. Well, as it turns out, we started mentioning this to people, and the more people we mentioned it to, the more people were interested in, well, why don't you do some actual live shows? When we finished doing the radio, we did a little tour called The Last Time. And so I thought that's pretty funny.
That's
if we
great.
did something again, it's already pretty funny.
Yeah.
So we have a new tour. It's called The First Time in a long time. And it's been incredible because we've just been putting it together, and it's one of those things that is one of the more organic projects that I've ever been involved in, because it wasn't meant to be a tour, it wasn't meant to be a show, and then suddenly it's a thing that you didn't realize people were as interested in as they are. So we've had so many people who were involved in the show, call us to the show. We went on Dylan Lewis's radio show and literally there was this kid called Shannon from Cockatoo who, when we were doing the show, was like 12, 13, 14, 15, and he used to review punk rock. So weekly he would have a segment and he'd tell us what it was like to be 12 and what punk rock song he liked. And we talked to him the other day on Dylan Lewis's show. He's like in his mid-30s now. Like, he's a grown-up man, still loves punk rock, which I love. That was good. Yeah. But so there's all this community that we used to have doing the show that is suddenly, this is an excuse for everybody to get back in touch. One of our old producers is currently working in Africa for the UN, and so she's contacted us from the middle of Africa going, I think I can make it back for the Adelaide show.
Oh, that's amazing.
So we always thought there was no archival evidence of our show, because we're in that magic time where the ABC wasn't really archiving things, and it wasn't in this era where it's all, on disc or digital.
Yeah.
And so somebody has illegally recorded the last 3 weeks of the show, like songs and all. So there is a link on the internet where you can listen to the last 3 weeks of the show, and that is the only evidence that we ever did the show, that it exists. So most of what we're putting together is only just coming from our memories, and our memories of the time are not that good. So if anybody else has any memories that they'd like to share, we're happy to hear them.
So when was the run? It was, how long did you?
2000 to 2004 inclusive, basically, is when
Isn't
we
it amazing? 4 years as well.
5 years in total. So yeah.
And I mean, that's another reason why you're a good fill-in for Jess. She probably did about 4 or 5 years on Triple J as well.
I spoke to Jess about this when she did my philosophy podcast, which is, I think Triple J is a place that you should pass through. It's probably to this day the most fun job I've ever had in my entire life. And when I left, there was definitely a part of me that was like, why would I leave the best fun? I even knew then that probably nothing else was ever going to live up to the fun that you can have at a radio station like that, particularly for me as a person who was so passionate about music. So for me, this was just the greatest experience of all time. I got to do comedy all over the place, find these audiences, but also I got to go to the big day out. I mean, I went to 35 big days out or something,
Just going the whole tour. You're following around.
I mean, I played music festivals. There was a music festival in Brisbane where one time I was on before the Lemonheads. It was me and then the Lemonheads on this stage on the same day. So Adam and I, there used to be this band called Sonic Animation. They were a big sort
something
of
in
dance.
vowels. What was their song? It was like a. What was it? It was an Aussie band, right?
Yeah, Aussie band.
It's like a symphony of vowels or something of vowels.
Oh, that might be true. So they had these two. two mascots called Robert Rowley and anyway,
that's from that song. Robert Rowley rolls around the roll. Yeah.
So they had these two giant mascots who danced on stage with them.
I'm looking at the time. Yeah, I remember them now. Yes.
Right, and so at the Perth Big Day Out, in front of, it would have been 6,000 people, I reckon, on stage at the Perth Big Day Out while Sonic Animation were playing in the rave tent there. Adam and I were those two characters on stage.
Oh, that's awesome.
For the entire set. So literally have been on stage for an entire set of dance music at a music festival in a big costume. I mean, the things that we got to do were, I just love them. And it's only 20 years on that you fully appreciate it. Because when you're in the middle of it, it is the way you're living your life. It's only when you get to look back on it later that you realise, oh, that was a pretty cool time.
At the time, it's just one of 35 big days out.
Yes. Yeah.
And you look like, oh, I wish I could do that again. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we went on stage at the Sydney Big Day Out to announce to Powderfinger that they had won the Hottest 100. Like, you know,
awesome.
Like the first time Powderfinger ever played My Happiness was at a live OB we were doing at the breakfast show under the Sydney Harbour Bridge across from the Opera House. And Powderfinger played My Happiness for the first time as the sun came up over Sydney Harbour and I was at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No other job has been as good as that. You know?
Yeah, that's wild. You were a part of history probably so many times. Is it frustrating that it's not all recorded? Like, there's no footage of that?
People remember it so fondly, and I think that the way they remember it is so much better than what it would be if they could listen back to it.
Yeah.
I just don't think there is it's the last of the myths, right? Because, you know, people's memories fade and they only remember the best bits. I think if they remembered all of it, or if you were able to listen to all of it, you'd be like, I don't really see what the appeal of this show was.
That's
it lives
true.
better in people's memories than in actuality, I think. So we're hoping to destroy those memories by getting the old band back together.
Yeah.
Live in front of their very eyes.
Now, I'm looking at the dates. You're already selling them out. Brisbane sold out. Sydney added extra shows. So you're playing Melbourne Comedy Theatre, selling fast.
Yeah, look, I mean, by the time people hear this, that one will be sold out. But I think we're going to add one more Melbourne show, so there may be tickets still available.
Oh, that's awesome. You're just playing old tracks, or are you getting any bands to play, or is this all sort of surprise?
Well, it'll be a surprise because we don't know yet either.
Yeah.
What we wanted to do is make sure that if people wanted to come and see more than one, that they will see different things, that we didn't want to condense the whole experience just down into one show that we then repeated. So instead, what the idea would be is, like, we've got so many great stories about bands that we interviewed, for example. So at each show, we might tell a couple of those band stories, but you tell a couple of different band stories at the next show, a couple of different interview stories at the next show, a couple of different guest stories. So one of the things we want to do, because people are so, oh, what happened to this person, or what happened to this? So I think we'll have an aspect of, here are the people who were involved in the show, this is what they're up to now, and then in each place try to pick one or two guests, musical artists, whoever it might be,
Missy Higgins,
who are associated with that part of the world, who...
Yeah. I saw a clip. You were Missy Higgins was saying how much she loved your show, but she
with Matt.
Yeah, she couldn't remember Adam's
Wil
name.
and Matt could not remember Adam's name. I mean, certainly I'll be bringing that up. If nothing else, that will come up quite a lot. I'll probably play Missy Higgins to come on stage. But yeah, that's the idea. When we go to these places, like, it would be nice to go, oh, here's this artist, or here's this guest who's from here that we'll have as part of the show that night. So yeah, it's going to be really fun, I think.
I'm pumped. I'm gonna have to go to that extra Melbourne show.
Well, you can just call me. I'll get you to whatever show you want to go to.
Well, oh, great! I'll come the whole tour.
Yeah.
I'll come to all 35.
Yeah, see if I was really true when I said that it'll all be different.
Hey, we got it on tape. I know, I've heard it. I'll be in the back. I heard it. Hey, Dave, do you want to explain to Wil how this show works?
Well, what we do here on Do Go On is we take it in turns.
Oh, no, hang on. Wil says he's listened a few times. I really think we should get Wil to explain what the show is.
It does blow my mind if you ever say you've listened to an episode, or you do a retweet or something. Oh my God, Wil Anderson listens to the show. But does Wil Anderson really listen to the show?
From Wil and Matt.
So every week, one of the three of you, and today I am Jess for the purposes of this, but one of the three of you will go away and you will prepare a report on a subject that you will then bring back to the group, and then the others will essentially derail that for comedic purposes. Yeah, that's basically how the show works.
Oh, maybe you have listened.
Maybe it's probably the best it's ever been described.
That was succinct.
Yeah, very succinct.
Yeah.
We put a lot of superfluous. Can't even speak in there. Now, we always start with a question, Wil.
Uh-huh.
And I'm doing the report this week. You guys don't know what I'm going to talk about. So to get us on the topic, I'm going to ask you a question. And the question is, the following people are all examples of famous what?
Oh.
And now I'm going to list. Yeah. Okay, yes.
Yeah, deny
that. Yeah. I'll read out these names. You got to tell me what are they known for? What are they known for? And you can buzz in at any time or jump in at any time. We've got Emily Dickinson, T.S. Eliot.
Poets?
Poets is correct after 2. Well done.
I felt like it was going to be deeper than that. You know?
Yeah, I'm like, this
Died
one.
of cholera.
We'll burn this one and then.
No. They are all, I was going to say, Maya Angelou, John Keats, Sylvia Plath, William Wordsworth, Pablo Neruda, Langston Hughes, and William Shakespeare. They're all poets. But I didn't mention any Australian poets there. But today I'm going to tell you about one of Australia's most famous and enduring poets, Ern Malley.
Oh.
Do you know Ern Malley or the Ern Malley story?
No.
No.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm going to talk about Ern Malley today.
Yeah, hopefully you do, Dave.
Yeah, I've been looking into it all week.
The
I'm
only reason I
obsessed.
know T.S. Eliot is because Tism had a song called T.S. Eliot is a wanker or yeah. And he was a
I'm
poet.
going to say T.S. Eliot is a poet. That's how you knew it.
But yeah, T.S. Eliot. I think he was wrote about wars or something. And Ashley Dickinson?
Emily Dickinson.
Emily Dickinson, yeah. Ashley Dickinson is a listener of this show, I think.
May also be a poet.
Maybe a poet.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, so it's really just, like everything I know about sort of highfalutin stuff. It's a Tism lyric.
You got any William Wordsworth trivia?
No, he's a poet?
Yeah.
I mean, what
One
a
of the
name
ones
for...
that Dave just mentioned.
He was on the list.
First I'm hearing of him. I mean, the name, that's a perfect name. That's a bit of, what do you call it?
Nominative determinism. He's famous for I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud.
Oh, yeah, he's another sad. I said T.S. Eliot was a bit sad, but they're probably all a bit sad, aren't
A happy poet.
they? Yeah.
Come on.
Happy poets are like a comedian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. People say, stop lying to yourself. This isn't poetry. So this topic's been suggested by a few people, and thank you to Paul Sharp from Hobart, Rachel Johnson from Melbourne, Tom Badger Hill from Sheffield in England, and Lena Rosenthal, also in the UK, in Brighton.
Interesting. So Australian poets, but known outside of Australia.
Internationally, maybe big time.
Hobart, England.
Overseas.
Ern Malley.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about it. It all starts with a guy called Max Harris, born in April 1921 at Henley Beach in Adelaide. A very smart young man, he won a scholarship that allowed him to board at the Collegiate School of St. Peter in Adelaide. Mm-hmm. According to one of our favourite sources, the ADB, the Australian Dictionary of Biography, which is the clunkiest name, I love it so much. Max Harris had a rough time at school, feeling like an outcast and being regularly bullied until recognising that sporting achievements were highly valued. He proved himself as a first-rate footballer and runner. Uh-huh. I had that same realisation, but then I didn't have the talent to become a footballer or a runner.
I mean, it's not like we're keeping it a secret that's... Like, I mean, our entire culture in Australia is built on the idea that the way not to be bullied is to be good at sport.
He looked around and went, hang on a second.
I can see a pattern.
So he was good at sport as well. In his classroom, his English teacher, John Padman, introduced him to the modernist poets and writers, including Dylan Thomas and Matt's favourite, T.S. Eliot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know him. I've ever told you how I know his name. I didn't even get the Tism song name right, which is fine. Do you know T.S. Eliot?
Personally?
Personally, yeah.
Well, obviously you interviewed a lot of people on your previous radio show back in the day.
He was actually really great. Like everything in rhyming couplets. The entire interview.
He's always on.
Able to do it off the top of his head. I was like, man, do you ever stop rhyming?
Because the Tism song's called T.S. Eliot, He Wanker. And I assume that's a reference to T.S. Eliot somehow. But I never thought to look it up. I mean, I could.
I mean, at the first half would be minimum.
Yeah.
The bit where it says T.S. Eliot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, I'm derailing. You said for comedic effect. I forgot that bit. I'm just derailing at the moment.
So what you got to know, Max Harris, he started as a young kid. He's reading T.S. Eliot. He's getting inspired. Mm-hmm. He then started writing his own poetry, and some were published in the school magazine.
Oh, my God.
He excelled academically and went on to win over 20 prizes at school.
20?
Which is
some for the rest of us.
I think that's got to be all of them, right?
Academic as well as sporty.
Yeah, 20 prizes. Couldn't believe it.
I mean, that's too many prizes.
Yeah,
I know everyone complains these days that kids get too many prizes at school. But
What era was this?
Yeah, sorry, 19 of them were participation trophies. It's wild, 20.
Yeah.
Did you win awards at school?
I mean, what sort of, like, what does that mean?
I don't know.
It was just a real general question.
Yeah. I mean, I won, I remember, you'd get a weekly award because I guess that's why I'm a soft millennial or whatever, because they would give you, I reckon they just rotated through everyone and get a certificate at the assembly. They do that at your school?
Oh, right, yeah. It's like you're like student of the week or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
I never won any proper awards, I wouldn't even be able to tell you anything.
Yeah, I don't think my school even gave out awards.
Yeah.
I was the Victorian Lions Youth of the Year.
Okay.
Really?
That's a big one.
That's a proper one.
Yeah.
They are the ones who sell lifesavers.
That's right.
And did you get it?
Big.
Did you get it from
Best breath? Was it?
Did you sell the most mints?
It was non-mint related.
What have you done to earn that?
So it's actually a nationwide competition, the Lions Youth of the Year, open to all students at school, and there is a few components to it. One of them is public service, one is academia. So it's they get your results and your sort of public service. There is an interview aspect, almost like a job interview where they talk to you about your life and aspirations and blah, blah, blah. And then there is a series of public speaking events at the Lions clubs where you do a prepared speech and then an improvised speech as part of this competition. So that was the bit I was most
right. You got 4 marks in that and it just really brought you
I had
up.
some real Eminem 8 Mile attitude when it came to that aspect of the competition.
Were you getting laughs?
Yeah, I mean, particularly because, think about this. This is the local Lions Club. It's just a collection of people who do community service. They're trying to help out the next generation of kids. They're sitting through 8 speeches about Nelson Mandela. It's basically it's just a bunch of mini episodes of Do Go On. None of the fun comedic interruptions as someone tells you their report on whatever it is that they've come up with.
So you're standing out in a big way.
Yes. And so up until so I won the Victorian, but didn't win the national. I lost the national final. But yeah, it was the reigning Victorian Lions Youth of the Year.
Bloody hell!
So yeah, there you go.
They're the kind of crowd like a wedding speech. They want to laugh unless you're offensive or something.
They want to.
Or the tennis crowd, and that's the tennis players can get the biggest laughs from pretending to drop the ball and
so the prize, this is where so the prize was a 6-week trip around Australia. Right, so all the state winners went on a tour around Australia together, and in each state the Lions clubs arranged statewide sort of adventures for you, and the price you paid were that you would do a speech at the Lions Club. So basically we were just on tour. It was essentially just roadshow.
It is an early roadshow.
And as we were just going. And but the funny thing is, I'm from regional Victoria, so we're taking them to, I don't know, some hay baling festival or whatever. And then when we went to Sydney, they took us to see Billy Joel. Felt like we'd really let down the side.
Well, it feels like yours is a little more accurate. What's Billy Joel say about Sydney? I think really they should have been taking to see Warwick Kappa or
it's true.
But hay baling, that is what town are you from?
Hayfield is the name of the town.
There you go. Exactly.
And what do you do there?
How'd you get that name?
Okay, so this is literally a bit that I did in my show this year, but it's true, which is the town of Hayfield. Now, you would think that, it's pretty obvious how it got its name.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so. The quote from the early settler, and this is on the Wikipedia page, I've looked this up to make sure I'm not just false memory this. The quote that we were taught at primary school about how the town of Hayfield got its name is an early settler came through in the 1800s. It was farmland, and he described the area as a waving field of corn.
Okay.
So, and then no follow-up questions, and expected us to get on with the rest of our lives, not understanding why we didn't live in cornfield.
Cornfield's kind of cool.
Yeah. Cornfield's better, I think, than hayfield.
Hayfield sounds like nothing. Cornfield sounds like something.
Yeah. Yes. And that was also what I thought.
So a young Max Harris is very much like a young Wil Anderson, getting out there, winning all the prizes.
Yeah.
Sport as well? Were you running?
I mean,
This guy, I'm starting to wonder if it's not one and the same.
Yeah, were you born in 1920s Adelaide?
yeah.
And despite being a prefect and school captain, Max Harris's scholarship was only for 3 years, and when it ran out, his family couldn't afford to keep him at the school, so he was forced to drop out.
Okay.
Which is so brutal. You've been like the best student the school has. You're the prefect, you're a school captain, and they're like, what about the money? You got to go. So he started working as a news copy boy by day and studying by night to get his school certificate. And despite these non-educationally conducive conditions, he won the Tennyson Medal for Best English Literature Scholar in the state. So he's like studying at night, and he's still better than all the private school kids.
Tennyson's another one I've heard of. He's a poet, right?
Yeah, an English poet.
Gary, what's his first name? Johnny.
Is it Alfred?
Alfred. That sounds right.
They call him Lord Alfred Tennyson.
They say Lord Tennyson.
Yeah, Lord Tennyson, that's
Lord.
right.
There's like a lot of streets in Melbourne named after Tennyson for some reason. But he's not Australian.
No, I think he was like the English poet laureate.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what...
At the time when people were naming stuff after him.
There's an area near like St Kilda where every street, it's like there's Byron Street, Tennyson Street. It's like, yeah, I don't know what they were expecting it to be, but they had big ideas for the area.
Yeah, trying to buy a bit of class there.
Yeah.
Max Harris went on to study at the University of Adelaide, and in his first year, he published poems in the university's literature journal called Phoenix. He published his first book of poetry, The Gift of Blood. So he's a real young achiever, this guy.
Okay.
Sounds like he knows about a lot of things, but gift giving, maybe not.
Yeah.
Mate, like blood. Blood?
And how he used like a bag? What,
Yeah,
how are you giving
Happy
that?
birthday.
Yeah. That's for you. I bled for you.
Such a good gift if you need it.
Yeah, you're
But otherwise, real.
Yeah, Max.
Thank you.
It 100% depends on whether you need
Yes,
blood.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's either the best gift or the worst
Yeah,
gift.
right. There's no in between.
Yeah, no. Oh, thanks. I'll
Yeah.
go put this with all the others. That's really weird. This is a quote again from the ADB to describe the guy. He worked as a cadet in the university library, was obsessed with modern literature and poetry, and was keen to share his knowledge with others.
Okay.
Yet, he was also ambitious and made enemies through his precociousness and cocky manner. So I get the feeling you either love him or hate him kind of guy.
I get it.
Yeah.
He's super smart, super talented,
Yeah, and he knows it.
and he knows it. Yeah.
What's this guy's name again?
Max Harris.
And what's this episode about again?
It's not about him yet.
Ern Malley.
Ern Malley.
Who's another poet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we got to start with Harris to get to Malley.
Got to set up the pins. But
Exactly.
This normally, I feel like we would have heard about the person we're talking about by now.
I just feel like Max Harris is so impressive that Dave's like, we just need a little
We
bit
got to
of
talk about this
Yeah,
guy. He's
yeah.
amazing.
like Max. It's short for Maximum Harris. Because he's the most Harris.
You couldn't get it.
There's actually, he's got a twin, Min Harris, who is underwhelming in his achievements.
Whereas, I think I relate more to median Harris.
So he made enemies and they would come into play throughout his life. That is important to the
Great.
story.
Okay. Yes.
In his first couple of years at uni, he had been a member of the Jindi Warabak Club, which is an early literary movement devoted to emancipating an Australian identity in literature, trying to carve out our own sort of thing. The group, mostly poets, attempted to contribute to a uniquely Australian culture through the integration of Indigenous Australian subjects, language and mythology, and also found inspiration in earlier Australian bush ballads. But the movement, that sounds all right, but the movement was made up exclusively of white people and has been criticised for being culturally insular, overtly nationalist, and racist in appropriating Indigenous culture without consent or understanding. But they were kind of like, yeah, this is Australia, I guess, yeah. Let's write poetry about this stuff.
Does feel like you're judging it a bit on today's standards. It was probably super progressive at the time that they even talked about it like it would be worthy to take on board some Indigenous culture.
Yeah, I mean, and things have changed. Like these days, three white guys wouldn't get in a room and try to.
Oh no.
But basically, the Jindi Warabak, they faced a lot of criticism at the time for being quite a nationalist group. And a lot of people didn't like them for that. That was what they were criticised for at the time. But these people thought Australian poetry should reflect an Australian identity, and the outback was a central theme that they wrote about. But others pushed for poetry to remain more traditional and European in influence. And then there's another group, which Maggie Nolan, who wrote for The Conversations, a great article on this whole story that I'll link to in the show notes. She speaks of another group saying, then there was the Marxist school of social realism, advocating leveraging Australia's convict history and Soviet notions of class struggle to build an authentic left-wing Australianness.
We're drinking coffees right now made by a Marxist. The barista, the first time I went in there, she was talking about Marxism to another customer, and I dug deeper. She's more specifically a Trotskyist. But anyway, just something to think about as you're sipping on that flat white.
You paid for that, though, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
There's some conflict in ideology.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to head back now.
So then there's Max. He's in the middle of all of this, deciding what he wants to be. He tried being a member of the Jindi Warabak group, which are writing about the outback. He tried being a member of the Communist Party, but that at the end of the day, he found he was more of a fan of the avant-garde and a proponent of modernist poetry and writing. And for a little background here, modernism was an artistic movement that shaped many different art forms in the early 20th century. And to zone in on it a bit more, I went to poetryfoundation.org.
Oh, yeah.
Which gave me a bit of a background. They said, with the inventions of everything from the automobile to the aeroplane, the vacuum cleaner to the incandescent light bulb, people's lives were changing with unprecedented speed. Many English language artists, including poets, thought a new approach was needed to capture and comment on this new era, requiring innovation in their own work. The result was called modernism, the largest, most significant movement of the early 20th century. And it's, in terms of literary form and expression, it's often exemplified, the quote that people associate it with it is the American poet Ezra Pound, whose maxim was, make it new.
Ezra Pound's mentioned in the Tism song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
What do they say about the old Pound?
Something about the modernist achievement is mentioned, but to me it sounds like gibberish. I really should look into what it means.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great, it's real catchy, but I'm sure they're also saying some...
Yeah, you're like somebody listening to We Didn't Start the Fire, but you've never read about history.
yeah. Just love this beat.
Yeah, my God. They made up these names that rhyme so well. Joe DiMaggio?
Yeah.
How is that?
That's fantastic. The way his mind works.
Yeah.
Billy
Fantastical.
Joel. He's a quintessential Sydney guy, Billy Joel.
And how was it on the Lions Club trip? We didn't start the fire. Was it fantastic?
I mean, I think what people of the modern generation will never appreciate is hearing We Didn't Start the Fire as the new material at the gig, because this was the era,
yes.
He had all these classics, but this was We Didn't Start the Fire was the one he was most passionate about at the time, because it was off the album that he was touring.
Getting out from behind the piano, really working the crowd sort of thing.
Man, the banter that Billy Joel had in between those songs had the crowd in the palm of his hand,
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and then just, like hearing We Didn't Start the Fire when some of those events were actually, closer to the happening. I mean, you younger people, you hear it as a historical document. You're like, these names, these places.
Yeah, they're all in black and white in my mind.
Right. Whereas, I was living through it. I lived through not starting the fire.
He was doing a concert every day, and he'd wake up, read the headlines, and chuck a new name in there.
It's like, the world was on fire, man. And the one person I knew who didn't start it was Billy Joel. Because he kept telling me.
I thought he was protesting too much, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, no, they investigated.
Okay.
They were like, that sounds like one of those firefighters who lights their own fires. Wrote a whole song about it?
Yeah,
That
very
feels
sus. Come on, Billy. You're coming with us. What modernist is a term that I think is short-sighted. Mm-hmm. Like, they're looking at themselves in their place in time and everything. They must have realised that was going to be confusing to people in 100
years later. And then there's postmodernism from the 70s onwards, and now we're post that.
Yeah.
Everything from now on is going to be postmodernism.
Yeah.
And where does Post Malone fit into that?
Post Maloneism?
Yeah. I think that's what the kids are doing now.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Something to do with, face tats. Is that right? Am I talking about it okay?
I'm so cool. So a bit more about modernism. It's hard to exactly define an art movement that had many subgroups and stylistic offshoots as it
But give it a crack.
transformed. I'll give it a shot. And also over different decades, different countries, they have their own sort of offshoots. But as a very general rule for modernist poetry, it's characterized by its free verse and subject matter that often made a statement about society and realistically trying to convey everyday life.
So it didn't rhyme.
It didn't rhyme. They were like, I don't want to rhyme.
Yeah,
I don't need
and
to
they
rhyme.
worked backwards from that, didn't they? I've written a really good one. Doesn't rhyme.
Doesn't
Can we
rhyme.
write that into the rules?
That's on purpose.
Yeah.
That's better than the ones that rhyme.
Yeah. They're trying too hard.
Yeah, whatever. Like, dumb. Next, you want, like, what, jokes at the end of your, like, punchlines at the end of your jokes? No, thank
Come
you.
on.
This
No.
is postmodernist anti-comedy is what I'm
yeah, it's what I'm
telling
doing.
you that I'm
it's
doing.
better than comedy that makes you laugh.
Yeah,
And this is better poetry than poetry that rhymes. People hate it when words rhyme.
It's easy to make an audience laugh.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is art.
And what you got to remember, this is a time before rhymezone.com existed. So these people...
okay.
I mean, that's why they
More of a
didn't rhyme. It was
challenge.
difficult.
Yeah.
They were still looking for a word that rhymed with orange. They didn't know what we know now.
What do
Which
we know
is-
now?
Rhymezone.com, the orange, it's blank.
Oh,
There's
okay.
nothing in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But they assume they could
Yeah, they
be.
assumed that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they avoided it anyway. So modernism, it'd been prominent for... It's funny, Australia was so behind in this. It had been prominent for decades. This is the 1940s in Australia, but it's been since the start of the century. But it never, at the time, hadn't fully taken off in Australian literary circles. And because a lot of people did not
We got
like it.
modernism late.
Yeah, seriously.
That's good.
Yeah. In England, they're like, oh, you're still doing that thing, huh? Yeah. Okay, my grandpa did that. Weird. But a lot of people here, the critics, did not like modernism as a style. One critic described it as utterly worthless.
Wow.
So there was this schism in the Australian poetry scene with multiple groups. I know it's so lame to look back at it. Fighting to emerge as the victorious Australian poetry art form. And if you're thinking, surely there's room for all manner of artistic expression that can easily coexist, well, you're wrong.
Oh.
There can only be one.
That is
I know
honestly what I was
And
thinking.
everything else sucks.
Because of course we know how it plays out. Ostentatious wins this battle.
That's right. So the one type that combines into Australiana.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, go, Anna.
Took decades.
Do go, Anna.
to go Anna.
It's like Austin's in the room with us.
So some more conservative poets took a special umbrage with the new modernist style taking shape. But our main man, Max Harris, knew what he liked, and that was poetry and modernism, and passion for these two subjects were the driving forces behind his decision in 1940 to found his own literary journal called Angry Penguins.
Yes.
That's great.
Which is a great title.
That is a great title. This guy is an overachiever.
Yeah, he's like not even 21 at this time.
Ridiculous. Angry Penguins would be a great football team name. That's what Tassie... I thought
they
Tassie was a
should've.
bit dull. New team, and they've gone with Devils. Why not go for something that hasn't been done before? Tasmanian Angry Penguins.
Now that you've heard it out loud, do you want to revisit what you just said?
Yeah, it sounds like a euphemism for a hard-on. or something.
Angry
Oh, man, I've got a rotten Angry Penguin right now.
Do you want to visit Phillip Island tonight?
Tasmanian Angry Penguins. You can call it tap. Can't tap.
Can't tap. The March of the Angry Penguins.
The worst thing is he's got happy feet, but he's angry.
No, you're right. Yeah, probably not the best. But, I mean, it could be some... I think the Wombats is a great football team name.
Yeah, that's wasted.
Maybe better for rugby. Just nuggets running.
Yeah, nuggety dudes.
Yeah.
Picking up pace.
So, Angry Penguins, he co-founded the journal with fellow poet and student Donald D.B. Kerr. And according to ErnMalley.net, we're getting closer to
my
Malley.
God.
Oh, yes.
This is another great source. ErnMalley.net writes, their quest was a boldly rebellious one, to liberate Australian literature and art, seeking, as Harris put it, to quote, put a mythic sense of geographical and cultural identity back. End quote there. And then Ern Malley continues, no less than a change in the Australian national self-perception. This is a poetry journal. It's a big goal.
I'm loving it.
It's a big goal. And the first issue was funded by Max's mum.
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to change the world. Mum, can I have $10?
And so if you hadn't said just moments ago he was 21, I would have assumed he was in his 40s or something by now.
He's
the
done
amount of stuff he's
so
done.
much, yeah.
But yeah, I love that the mum backed. So this is Angry Penguins?
Yeah, Angry Penguins, Volume 1, backed by his mum.
Yeah. The opening page would have been, this is for mum.
Yes, thank you, mum.
Thanks, mum. I'll pay you back.
A letter from the benefactor. Max was the co-editor and his own writing was included, and the name Angry Penguins actually comes from his own poem called Mithridatum of Despair.
I reckon a better name for that poem would have been Angry Penguins.
I don't think it would be. So I'm going to give you
the Tasmanian Angry Dendums? Or what? No, that wasn't the word you said. That wasn't even close.
Mithridatum.
Mithridatum. Jeez.
So I'm going to
rhythm was similar.
I'm going to give you a bit of Mithridatum of Despair here.
Oh, great.
Now, a Mithridatum, I had to look it up. It's a remedy used as an antidote for poisoning, sometimes seen as a mythical remedy. Max Harris's own poem goes, "We know no Mithridatum of despair, as drunks, the angry penguins of the night, straddling the cobblestones of the square, tying a shoelace by fogged lamplight."
Oh, that
Okay,
rhymes.
you know what?
Yeah, there was an AB structure there.
love
Yeah.
And
that.
also the imagery of the drunken, angry penguin. I can see it.
Yeah, I
this
like
guy, you know what? Give him a prize. Give him another prize.
21st prize. Yeah.
And they're wearing their suits or whatever,
Yeah.
tuxedos.
Right? Stumbling around like angry penguins.
good.
This is good stuff.
And Charles Jury, who was a poet and literary professor who assisted the journal to get going, a bit of a sort of an influence that they looked to. He agreed. He thought the description of angry penguins suited the young poets on their revolutionary literary quest.
Oh, nice.
It's like,
And that
you
is-
are the angry penguins.
Yeah, and that's a jury decision. So that's... Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Charles
So
Jury.
sorry. That's
12 Angry Penguins.
They're getting somewhere here.
okay. One more step, and I think we're where we need
We
to
got
go.
something.
Yeah.
Yes, there's always something.
One more step, we won't ask this section to be edited out.
Oh, no,
I'm already making notes in my head. Connor, can you edit out everything I've said so far?
This is really nice to be here for one of those moments where you say that and then it does not get edited out.
It does not.
Connor, please.
Always one of my favourite things about listening to this show is your delusion about what gets edited out of the show.
I tell him back. I listen back and I go, he didn't edit that out at all.
No, the amount of times you're like, they probably edited that out. No, I just listened to it.
45% of the show is Matt begging to have it edited out.
Please look after me. Otherwise, I'm not free to take these swings. You know, if I'm afraid
Yeah,
that
that's
every
right.
miss stays in.
Yeah, he needs to think that it's going to
Okay.
go.
Oh, yeah, no, that's right. Okay, edit that out.
Nah, don't. Charles Jury commented also, this is their guy they look up to, he commented there was a sense of genius about the place.
Okay.
So there's a bit of buzz about this mag. And the first edition of Angry Penguins came out in February 1941. The Second World War was raging at this point, and his co-editor, D.B. Kerr, was soon killed in action in New Guinea the year later in 1942. Sadly, he wasn't the last of Harris's contributors to go to war and never return home. So that's sort of the cultural context of the time. The first issue was a hit and caught the attention of Melbourne lawyer John Reed, who went to Adelaide to meet the person behind the journal, who was quickly making a reputation for himself. John Reed was an arts patron who in the early 1930s, with his wife Sunday Reed, bought a house on the former dairy farm that they named Heidi.
Now, are they the couple who came up with the concept of a Sunday read? Like they have in the newspaper?
I love a Sunday Reed.
Is that named after them?
Yeah, that's
Is that
right.
where it comes from?
And then neighbour Sunday Drive also had a lot of stuff going on. You never combine the two. That's very dangerous. So it's John and Sunday Reed. They're married, and they founded the Heidi House that was soon to become the epicenter for the Heidi Circle of Artists, which we've talked about before, Matt, on the show, because for our Artifacts, our little spin-off web series and podcast where we spoke about the history of art.
Which no one watched.
Yeah, no one watched, but it was so much fun making it.
That was fun, yeah.
We went out to Heidi Will, which is now like this gallery in what's it? Technically Bulleen, but it was near Heidelberg. That's why it's called Heidi. And we spoke about Joy Hester.
And I think they bought it for it was like $100 or something.
Yeah,
it was something wild. And they were driving past and just went, they were going on a Sunday drive, and they went, and they put a bid on it. It was like farmlands. But now it's, relatively inner city Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was cool. Yeah, during lockdown we did... Was it during lockdown? Dave had this idea that we'd do a series where we'd go to bits of art.
Yeah, galleries and installations.
Around Melbourne and record us telling the story of the art in front of the art and then putting it out so people could see the art while everyone was locked down here. And yeah, we went to the Young and
fun.
Jackson, did one about Chloe, the Chloe one, and went to NGV and...
Did you do whatever the Yellow Peril's called?
We did Vault, yes. Yes,
Vault.
we did go out to that. Yeah, absolutely.
And there, what's the street art guy?
Oh, and then there's a
Haring?
Keith Haring out in Collingwood, big mural that we...
Yeah, that was fun. I'd forgotten we'd done that. That was great.
And that is available still on YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, it did not catch the imagination of our audience, but...
Yet.
Yeah, that's right.
right.
Because I was thinking it could be this whole thing like, no, we do a series on architecture or whatever when we go, sit in front of the Opera House and talk about that history and we find other things.
Yeah, and we talked to an expert each episode as well.
Yeah, it was fun.
Maybe it's just an idea that time wasn't right.
Yeah, that's
right. Like it sits there for a while and then people are like, maybe through this episode, maybe through us talking about it right now, people are like, actually, you know what? That does sound like a pretty cool idea. In the lockdown, I didn't enjoy it because it was too... I couldn't go to the cinema.
Yeah, it was cruel.
Yeah.
It was
hanging over you.
It was rubbing it in my face.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Yellow Peril with my phone
and then watch it. Yeah. That's how I prefer to enjoy it.
Get the full ambience. So yeah, why don't you start with the Joy Hester episode, because she was one of the artists, part of this Heidi circle. But backtracking a little bit, in July 1938, the Reeds, that's John and Sunday, were active in the formation of the Contemporary Art Society. And over the years, many different artists took up residence at Heidi, and they'd sort of feed them and buy their artwork and give them a space just to create stuff. And that included Joy Hester, that I just spoke about, her husband Albert Tucker, Danila Vasiliev, Gray Smith, and the famous Sidney Nolan, who is one of Australia's most famous painters. He painted all of his most famous series on Ned Kelly in the living room at Heidi, which is cool.
That's cool.
Or 37 or something of them. And it was all a bit Fleetwood Mac, with many of the artists and patrons all sleeping with each other.
Oh.
John, Sunday, and Sydney were a throuple for many years.
Throuple. So good.
It's so good.
Love to hear that word.
Yeah, it's great. All the articles describe it as menage a trois, but throuple is so much better.
Yeah.
I just...
They didn't even know they were a throuple.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Yeah.
Menage a trois is very European. I think throuple's more of a modernist kind of Australian modernist.
Yeah, they would have appreciated the modernist take on their threesome. Until they had a spectacular falling out.
Oh.
And it's actually worth its own report, so maybe I'll leave it there and we can talk about it a bit later.
Falling out.
Just their whole all of the goings on at Heidi is worth its own report.
Surely in three artists, it should be called a triptych.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a word Dave taught me. Well,
almost taught you.
Triptych.
And then he stormed out, and then they went back to being a diptych, and it was a bit sad.
Okay.
But before that, in 1941, John Reed offered his support to young Max Harris and helped him publish further editions of The Angry Penguins. Through Reed, Max actually met Sidney Nolan, which inspired him to link the two movements of writing and visual art. And from then on, the journal also included visual art. And the second edition featured an early Sidney Nolan work, who himself was also only in his early 20s. So there's these young, creative, happening people making stuff together. It sounds great. So it's really taking off for Max Harris. But again, not everyone was happy, including some of his fellow students at the University of Adelaide. Remembering this is peak World War II, and in 1941, a sense of nationalism was swirling, and umbrage was taken with the first issue of Angry Penguins and its perceived anarchistic sentiments. ErnMalley.net describes the wild scenes. A campus meeting was called in which Harris and Angry Penguins were condemned, and the students called for punishment by throwing Harris and 3 other anarchist students into the nearby River Torrens.
Oh.
Harris leapt onto a table and volunteered to throw himself into the river if the students would take up a collection for the war effort and the Red Cross. The students chose the dunking. They're like, nah, I'd rather throw you in.
That's it. So they're anti-anarchists, and they're going to show that by throwing people in a river.
In a river.
That's what order it looks like to me.
Exactly. And there's a photo of the dunking that was published in the local newspaper. It's wild.
Okay, so
That's so, isn't it? It feels sort of, I'm getting secondhand embarrassment of these like 20-year-old students being like, stop being so
Oh, I know.
anarchisty.
But you know when you're at uni and everything, you're like, that's the only way. That's the right way. And there's all the different socialist alternative groups and they don't all agree.
mate, there's a bloody war on. It's not the time for your bloody poetry and art books when there's a bloody war to fight.
No.
Okay. But isn't that what we're fighting for? So I can write some nonsense and...
Yeah, that's what a bloody coward would say. Get a gun and go and kill somebody.
Well, actually, my new poem is called I'm a Coward. Please don't make me go.
So in 1943, after his degree was finished, Max Harris took up John Reed's invitation to come and live at Heidi in Melbourne. So he's living with all those other artists that are all having a great time together. Together, the pair formed the publishing house Reed and Harris, releasing numerous Australian books in addition to Angry Penguins. And intent on publicising the work of emerging artists, they incorporated art images and articles on the artists in the journal, including many of the Heidi Circle artists I mentioned before. And now that's become its own acclaimed artistic movement, and historically the whole movement is referred to as the Angry Penguins. So they're called like the Angry Penguins artists, like Sidney Nolan is an Angry Penguin. Which
I'm starting to feel like I should know some of this. I feel like none of this is ringing bells at all.
But how many poets do you know of?
T.S. Eliot.
Yeah, okay. He Wanker.
Ezra Pound.
Yeah, good one.
Ezra. I think there's another Tism song maybe called Ezra Pound Axe King. Does that make it? Does that mean anything? I'm assuming that's some sort of a play on some sort of...
Is there an axe brand that sounds like Ezra Pound?
I don't know. And I regret bringing it up, to be honest.
Well, they're one of your famous...
These are things I could quietly Google.
They're one of your favourite bands ever, and you've never understood a single lyric.
Very few of them. But then they did a song about Shane Crawford. I'm like, okay.
Okay, this is more my speed.
Now, this river called Phoenix that you're talking about.
mean? What
does that
where
mean?
is that river?
Arizona, I suppose.
The Angry Penguins journals also published and exposed their Australian readership to modernist writers from overseas. And it's so funny to me that people were pushing back against this because they published authors that are now universally acclaimed. But when they were young and cool, people were like, what is this shit? Including Nobel laureate Gabriel Garcia Marquez, legendary Welsh poet Dylan Thomas, and James Dickey. And they're like, who is this Dickey? 25 years later, he would be named the Poet Laureate of the United States.
Wow.
So, it's acclaimed and mainstream enough for that. But at the time, they're like, what is this bullshit?
Dylan Thomas is ringing a bell, but that is Daisy Thomas's real name, isn't it? Or no?
No.
What's his real name?
Dale Thomas.
Dale. Is Dylan Thomas another person, or is that another...
Dylan Thomas is a very famous poet.
Yeah, Welsh poet. Yeah.
So I'm going, why would I know that name? Is it a footballer?
From him being really famous.
Oh, it's just him.
His most famous poem is "Do not go gentle into that good night."
Yeah, I've heard that line at least.
I think I've done it on a book cheat before, actually. Is that what you've heard?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I learn everything from either you or Tism, Dave.
Yeah. So. Who do you understand more?
That's pretty similar, to be honest.
And again, not everyone was happy with these overseas artists and poets being published. EarnMalley.net again. The conservative literary world lived in simmering resentment of the political and aesthetic passions emerging in Angry Penguins. Not to mention the exuberant intellectual instigations of young Max Harris, which they describe in quotes as the enfant terrible.
Ooh.
So they were really anti-Max Harris. He's like painting a bullseye on himself. He's seen as the poster boy that people want to take down a peg.
You'd assume now they'd be like, it's so great that anyone's talking about poetry at all, but back then they're like, that's the wrong kind of poetry.
Yes.
They're not doing poetry right.
Yeah, it's wrong.
It should be AABA rhyming couplets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess we could do an AABA if you want to.
I mean, it's kind of more limerick style.
Yeah. That's, Bawdy limericks. Yeah. We're talking about...
That's the real stuff.
That's the happy poet.
When do we get to the boy on the burning bridge?
And have they been to Nantucket recently?
Yeah.
Australian poet and critic A.D. Hope has been described as an extreme opponent to Max Harris and the other Angry Penguins.
Okay.
Which is so funny to say. I hate those angry penguins. And he described the journal as, quote, an arrogant and stupid literary magazine. A.D. Hope was to become an acclaimed poet himself, but he was very old school, and I love this complimentary put down. He was referred to in an American journal as, quote, the 20th century's greatest 18th century poet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, bravo.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, you're really good at that stuff they did 200 years ago.
That's kind of, I think it was more of a compliment, but it kind of reminds me of Tim Rogers called one of Even's albums is the best Beatles album they never wrote or something like that.
Right, yeah.
And it's from the 90s. So you could take it both ways. I think he meant it as a compliment, but because the Beatles are a pretty handy band in the end. But
yeah, nice to be compared to, but also does sound a bit like, yeah, you ripped them off.
Yeah. But that is good. The 20th century's best 18th century.
So, on October 28th, 1943, Max Harris received a handwritten letter that would change his life. Addressed to the editor of Angry Penguins, it says, Dear Sir, I was going through my brother's things after his death. I found some poetry he had written. I am no judge of it myself, but a friend, who I showed it to, thinks it's very good and told me it should be published. On his advice, I am sending you some of the poems for an opinion. It would be a kindness if you could let me know whether you think there is anything in them. I am not a literary person myself, and I feel I do not understand what he wrote, but I feel that I ought to do something about them.
Is he going to say he's not a literary person again? He's really laying it on thick.
He's protesting a lot about not being a literary
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Are these even words that I'm writing? I don't know. I can't read, can't write. Don't know.
Just like scribbles to me. It says, Ern kept himself very much to himself and lived on his own of late and never said anything about writing poetry. He was very ill in the months before his death, last July, and it may have affected his outlook. I enclose a stamp for a reply and oblige. Yours sincerely, Ethel Malley. And Harris read the two enclosed poems and he fell in love.
Hello.
The first poem was Dürer, Innsbruck, 1495. Now, Albrecht Dürer was a German painter, and Innsbruck is an Austrian city that he painted in 1495. There's a series of paintings. And I'm going to read you Dürer, Innsbruck, 1495, and you can tell me what you think of this poetry from Ern Malley, from Ethel's now dead brother. I had often cowled in the slumberous heavy air, closed my inanimate lids to find it real, as I knew it would be, the colourful spires and painted roofs, the high snows glimpsed at the back, all reversed in the quiet reflecting waters, not knowing then that Dürer perceived it too. Now I find that once more I have shrunk to an interloper, robber of dead men's dreams. I had read in books that art is not easy, but no one warned that the mind repeats in its ignorance the vision of others. I am still the black swan of trespass on alien waters.
Yeah, not a single rhyme in that.
No rhymes.
I mean, it feels like, artistic to me in that it's obsessed with the idea of art.
Yeah, art about art.
Art about art. Yeah. The best kind of art. Where artists talk about art and how hard art is. Particularly, I would say, in light of the fact that there was a world war taking place at the time, I think the one thing we have to ruminate on is how hard it is to actually make art.
Yeah, to make original art that people haven't been doing for 500 years already.
Yeah, so that's what I mostly got from that was... You're great, Will. That's what I got. I was like, you've dedicated your life to making art.
Yep.
And I feel reinforced by that position.
That was a pat on the back.
Yeah.
For all the great artists.
And it also makes me feel good about not going on any of those, entertain the troops, things. I didn't, I just stayed at home and made art. I didn't go to war,
If you
thought about art
there, they should be entertaining you.
Yeah, that's right.
If anyone's the hero here.
Come back here and entertain me. That's more the...
Hey, Prime members, are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hey, true crime fans! Tired of ads interrupting your gripping investigations? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. After all, ads shouldn't be the scariest thing about true crime. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free true crime. That's amazon.com/ad-free true crime to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
So that's one of the two poems. Max loved it, and he wrote back to Ethel and excitedly inquired if there were any more poems. And she sent back more, as well as a short, detailed biography of her brother Ern. This is what it said. Ernst Layla Malley was born in Liverpool, England, 14th of March 1918. His father died in 1920, and Malley's mother migrated to Petersham in Sydney with her two children, Ern and his older sister Ethel. After his mother's death in August 1933, Ern Malley left school to work as an auto mechanic. Shortly after his 17th birthday, he then moved to Melbourne, where he lived alone and worked as an insurance salesman and later as a watch repairman. Diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disease that affects the thyroid, Malley refused treatment. He returned to Sydney, moving in with his sister in March 1943, where he became increasingly ill, as well as temperamental and difficult, until his death at the age of 25 on the 23rd of July that same year. And the poems were found after his death and had no preface or description, but appeared to have been written over a 5-year period. And in total, Ethel sent 17 poems, none of them longer than a page. And Max couldn't believe the poetry he was reading. The author appeared to be on par with the great Dylan Thomas, who was contemporary at the time.
He played for Collingwood and Carlton. Am I thinking of the right guy?
What a guy.
I think that's the one.
And with great excitement, Max showed them to his literary friends, who agreed of their brilliance. A completely unknown modernist poet of great importance had been discovered living in suburban Australia. Sadly, too late. It was an incredible story, but one that...
living in suburban Australia. That's not quite right, is it?
It is an incredible story.
But it's not one that's uncommon when it comes to art. You know, Van Gogh's paintings are only appreciated in death. John Keats' poetry was received with indifference when he died at just 25 as well. Emily Dickinson, that we spoke about earlier, only 10 of her 1,800 poems were published while she lived, and now she's considered one of the great American poets.
But also, I guess you look back at something like this through such modern, distrustful eyes. Like, you know, it's like every email or message I get from somebody going, hey, you've got like a fine or whatever. I'm like, that's probably like a scam. Even though maybe occasionally it probably is the truth.
Yes.
And you're just like, I just reckon that's a scam. Like when you say this, I'm like, prove you had a brother.
Prove it.
Prove some where is the evidence that this guy existed? Or is this just you trying to write some poems and get them in this magazine?
Yes, and it's always a little bit more interesting if they're dead.
Yeah. Mysterious brother. That's right.
But he's totally in on the story, because he felt like he's on the verge of breaking another artist finally ready to be appreciated posthumously. This one's Australian. That's what he's fighting for, an Australian modernist.
Born in Liverpool.
Yes, but that's true.
Was his sister Ethel, right?
Ethel.
Is there any chance that she's writing him? And was it at a time when women weren't sort of respected in poetry, or could that be the motivation?
I mean, most of the names that I read that the Angry Penguins published were male names, I'll say.
Yeah. So it's possible that
Ethel's just writing. She's I discovered another one actually today.
What are the
like a real Tupac's mum situation where suddenly there's just
it's weird, Ethel, that references today's news.
What's going on with Raygun?
He just had some powers, I guess.
Really good writer, but also I think he could tell the future. This guy's good. My brother, huh? I don't really get it though. Not a literary type myself.
So Max Harris, he's like so excited by it. He's like, what a great find, what a discovery. So he shared the poems with his friends who showed similar appreciation. They read them and went, this is good stuff.
This is great.
Oh, that's great. Because it's the kind of thing where I'm like, I couldn't tell you. Obviously, I'm a layman. But it's amazing. I would have thought even in that world, some would be like, this is great. And some would be like, no, it's not. How can you tell?
Yeah, but it's like almost unanimous.
Definitely.
That all the people that write this sort of stuff are like, this person's got it. So literary scholar Jeffrey Dutton described what he read as somebody who had the real voice.
Whoa.
High praise.
That is high praise.
Not everyone agrees, I should say. Author Stephen Orr, who's written a book about events of this time, described the poems to the ABC in 2021 as very modernist, very bizarre, little bits of facts and bits of lists, strange images. It's all over the shop. So not everyone likes it, but that's that's modernism. Not everyone gets it.
That is funny. He said it's modernism. He's like, it's very modernism. It's like fantastic modernism poetry. It's no good.
Not for me.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying it's... Oh, yeah. It's not for you, fair enough. But it's like a music journalist going, this new Post Malone album...
Good.
Look, it's
good start. Good solid start.
He's speaking real fast or slow or whatever his style is. But
sometimes fast then slow, then he speeds it up again. Maybe
really, there's not as much double kick drums that I like.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's any good. You got I think it's weird criticism. I would have thought from that guy. 2021, he should know better.
Yeah,
it's true.
What was his name?
His name is Stephen Orr.
Stephen Orr, if you're listening, take a good fucking look at yourself, mate.
Of all the names I've read so far, he's the only one that could still be listening. Damn it. So Max Harris, he loves the poems. It's exactly what he's looking for. This is right up his alley. John Reed, his Angry Penguins co-publisher, was also a big fan. So the two people you need to impress are impressed.
Okay.
There was some speculation that maybe the backstory was too fanciful, too good to be true, and that maybe
people like me who are a bit sus on this whole story.
Yeah, and it's funny because how fanciful is it? My brother died. He wrote some poems. Oh, a bit far fetched.
Eh?
It's like it feels it's believable.
Well, it's very convenient that this guy who's this genius poet has only been discovered once he's dead and we found these letters. It's a very romantic way of we found... It's a good backstory.
Yeah,
it gets people hooked in, right?
Totally does. And they thought maybe it's like you're thinking, like a pseudonym. Maybe someone else has just made up this story. Or maybe it's just completely made up. They weren't sure. But John Reed replied to Harris that, quote, since the poems were good, they should go ahead and publish them. Damn the risk.
Yep.
Put them out there. They're good.
What is the risk?
Yeah. Damn the risk.
Damn the risk. Then it comes out that, I guess that it's a pseudonym. And they go, well, whatever, they're good.
Pseudonym, that's pretty common though. Pseudonyms, right? In literature. I study literature at university. That's why I know some of these terms like pseudonym.
It's become very clear on this episode as well that you remember quite a lot.
I minored in it. I just remember dozing off in the lecture theatre. Some
of the best sleeps of my life.
Like our lecturer, one of the lecturers had the best voice. It was this sort of slow talking Englishman. And I just remember, I don't even remember ever reading it, but he talked about something called Wide Sargasso Sea. And
I've done that on BookChat. Yeah. I have, yeah.
And he talked about it in relation to something else. Maybe The Tempest or something. Jane Eyre.
Yeah. It's like basically it's fan fiction.
And I just remembered oh man, I don't know what you're talking about, but I am drifting off and it's so relaxing. I wish I recorded it just to listen to it at night time.
Yeah, that's what you try to capture now when you listen to on your Audible app. Matt, he listens to books. What do you put him on 0.75 speed or something?
0.75 speed. Listen to a slightly interesting but not too interesting non-fiction book, and I don't make it 20 minutes. Whereas I used to listen to podcasts. Like I would listen to Two Guys, One Cup or something, normal speed. And I get to the end of the episode, I'd be like, I'm more excited than ever. I've just heard about a player's bio. His favourite movie was Shawshank Redemption. I didn't see it coming. My heart's racing. So now, just to slow it down, and I'm listening to a book about the history of the Marvel comic book thing, and he's just talking about The Office and guys in The Office. I don't know. I hardly get through, 10 minutes now, and I'm drifting off. Hot tip.
That's your hot tip.
Unless people listen to this podcast at bedtime, then keep doing that. We'll take wherever we get the download.
That's right, we'll take the download.
But if you need to, just play it on an app that you're not listening to, in another room.
So, they decided to dedicate the next edition of the Angry Penguins to Ern Malley, Australia's previously unknown poet. 36 pages of the autumn 1944 issue were dedicated to him. Sidney Nolan painted the cover, and Max Harris wrote the edition's introduction. Writing of Malley's short life and untimely death, he wrote, I am firmly convinced that this unknown mechanic and insurance peddler is one of the most outstanding poets that we have produced here.
That is, I forget that part of it. That's making it particularly romantic, isn't it? He's toiling away under cars.
So he's a working man.
Quietly a genius.
He's also a genius, yeah, you're right. And it's high praise. some of the most outstanding poet we've ever produced. Copies were dispatched to London's publisher Faber and Faber and to Gotham Book Mart in New York City. And the Angry Penguins unveiled Ern Malley to the world.
Yeah.
Even if we are doubting it, there's probably a twist coming, but I don't really understand what the problem is. If it's like, it turns out it was his sister, or it was another poet. Just
Well, it feels like it could be an invention of the Angry Penguins too.
Right,
Like that
yes.
they, as a literary movement, could have got together to make this sort of like art project that's beyond, like they've got together with bloody Sidney Nolan and some of their arty mates, and they're like, we're going to do some
and almost fooling the world.
Yeah,
but
this is the art. This is the art.
And we had you believing.
Step back.
And the
the
other thing is, because we're all going, this is good because this group is saying it's good, but if they also wrote it and they're like, it actually sucks, like that's the reveal, they go, you published that.
It sucks. You're idiots.
That's the art. I was calling you idiots.
Now
That's
this is
the
the
art.
art. Step back. This is the art.
And now we're podcasting about it. Further step back.
And this is the art. This is the art. Then they come in. We got you.
Made you talk about it 80 years later, huh?
This is the art.
Well, here is some of that art. Here is some more of Ern's writing
Okay.
from the poem Perspective Love Song. This is one of the verses. Princess, you lived in Princess Street.
That's not good. That's bad. I don't look. That's now they are taking the piss now. They're getting cocky.
What else can we get away with?
That does really feel like now we got them. Let's really fuck with them. In a princess house with a princess hat.
Princess, you lived in Princess Street, where the urchins pick their nose in the sun with the left hand. You thought that paying the price would give you admission to the sad autumn of my Valhalla. But I, too, invented faithfulness.
Oh,
I don't know.
By the end, I'm like, that sounds like it could. I don't know.
It is my favourite line in all of Ern's writing is, Princess, you lived in Princess Street. But people love, the authors, their friends, they love it. So the publishers. But not everyone was convinced of what they were reading. They didn't believe Ern Malley's story. They were a bit like Will here. They're cynical.
That part, I reckon you put to one side. Is the writing good or not? That, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that first line isn't. But but if it's good, I don't know why the story matters that much. But I'm wondering if it's bad. I can't wait to find out.
Well, according to the ABC, soon after publication, a University of Adelaide literature lecturer publicly declared that he believed Max Harris had authored the poems himself.
right.
What?
Max is making
The
this
dirty
up.
penguin himself.
Yes.
The
Angry penguin.
well, he's become a dirty penguin.
That sounds like a completely different thing. The Dirty Penguin. That's some real Urban Dictionary style.
That's really rank.
Yeah, no thanks. Gross.
The Adelaide Press followed the controversy, reporting rumours that Malley was actually literary professor and crime writer J.I.M. Stewart, a.k.a. Michael Innes. They're you write crime under another name, maybe you're writing poetry under another name. So fingers are being pointed.
Okay.
It's like, you're Ern. No, I'm Ern. No one's admitting it.
But all of this must be good publicity for Ern.
Great publicity, because now newspapers are picking up the story. When before this is just a literary journal that literary types read. That's it. Student bookmakers reportedly started offering odds on the poet's true identity at Adelaide University.
That.
Yeah,
I love the
you
idea
made
of
this like
student bookmakers.
like apprentice hairdressers. We'll give you pretty good odds. We're not sure,
I'm not a professional yet. Max Harris himself hired a private investigator to try and get to the bottom of Ern Malley to find out if he was real.
Yeah. Am I him? You work it out.
That's a great way to throw it off the set. It's like, I've hired a private investigator. It's clearly not me.
It's very Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire tactics. Why would I have done that?
Why would I sing?
All people,
why would I repeat
a whole song about
Why would I sing a 6-minute song about it? Journalists also started digging. On the 18th of June 1944, the Sunday Sun ran a teaser that said, Ern Malley, the greatest poet or the greatest hoax? Adelaide University student newspaper On D teamed up with the Sydney University equivalent, which is On Y Soir, and discovered the address given by Ethel Malley was in fact that's as in the sister, the return address,
Yes.
was in fact the residence of a Sydney poet called Harold Stewart.
Ooh.
So the truth was starting to leak out. They're like, that's a bit weird.
How do you spell Stuart? Proper way?
The proper way.
Oh my God. Uncle Herb.
All right.
The following week, Fact, all capitals, which is the supplement of the Sydney newspaper Sunday Sun and The Guardian at the time, ran an... So you can trust it. It's called Fact. We know that. We know that. They ran an article that identified 26-year-old James Mcauley and 27-year-old Harold Stewart as the hoaxers under the headline, Ern Malley, Poet of Debunk. Full story from the two authors.
Right. So, but they're not going to... Well, I guess we'll find out. But if this is just two guys, I still think that if the poetry's good,
If it's good, it's good.
Yeah. But I can't wait to find out if it's bad.
Well, the two men who were both poets themselves in an army unit stationed in Melbourne at the time.
Oh, wait. They're doing both.
Yeah, fighting and writing.
Fighting and writing.
The rare combo.
It's got to be the name of their first book, Fighting and Writing.
Fighting and writing.
So the reason that Fact had this article was they released a statement to them explaining their actions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read a series of quotes from the two men explaining what they did. They said, "We decided to carry out a serious literary experiment. There was no feeling of personal malice directed against Mr. Max Harris, co-editor of Angry Penguins. For some years now, we have observed with distaste the gradual decay of meaning and craftsmanship in poetry."
They did it purposely bad. Oh my God, that hurts. Oh, poor Max.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
They're right.
Oh, that hurts.
And he's just gone,
I guess this is the only world in which your thing that it, like if it's a combination, you're like, that's fine still if they're doing good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Oh,
not
no.
good.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the only way that Harris could
He's
really have
just
egg on his
fully
face.
pumped it up. This is one of Australia's best ever poets. And they write, Mr. Max Harris and other Angry Penguin writers represent an Australian outcrop of a literary fashion which has become prominent in England and America. The distinctive feature of the fashion, it seemed to us, was that it rendered the devotees insensible of absurdity and incapable of ordinary discrimination. And they go on to say what they don't like about this sort of poetry. They say, our feeling was that by processes of critical self-delusion and mutual admiration, the perpetrators of this humorless nonsense had managed to pass it off would-be intellectuals and bohemians here and abroad as great poetry. Wow. Their work appeared to us to be a collective of garish images without coherent meaning and structure, as if one erected a coat of bright paint and called it a house. However, it was possible that we had simply failed to penetrate to the inward substance of these productions. The only way of settling the matter was by experiment. It was, after all, fair enough. If Mr. Harris proved to have sufficient discrimination to reject the poems, then the tables would have been turned. What we wished to find out was, can those who write and those who praise so lavishly this kind of writing tell the real product from consciously and deliberate concocted nonsense? So they're like,
well,
we'll send in some crap, and if they detect that that's fake, then we'll know that they actually can tell the difference between like Dylan Thomas and a couple of guys.
But Dave, is it not possible that they stumbled upon accidentally great modernist writing 17 times?
And that they were all each better than the last.
Yeah, I mean, amazing.
And they went on to describe in their statement how they created the poems. And it's quite interesting how they say they wrote them. They say, we produced the whole of Ern Malley's tragic life work in one afternoon, with the aid of a chance collection of books which happened to be on our desk, the concise Oxford Dictionary, a collected Shakespeare, and the Dictionary of Quotations. We opened books at random, and choosing a word or phrase haphazardly, we then made lists of these and wove them into nonsensical sentences. We misquoted and made false allusions. We deliberately perpetrated bad verse and selected awkward rhymes from Ripman's Rhyming Dictionary. So that's what they had before Rhyme Zone, was Ripman's Rhyming Dictionary.
They did this the wrong way. I reckon if it was me and I'd done that and it starts blowing up, I'd go, all right, I'm flipping now. We are Ern Malley, and we did this on purpose. We're great.
I'm a modernist. I'm a modernist now.
Because now, like, what's better, being a debunker or like seen as a great artist? I just go, I could bang these out as much as we like.
Yeah, it's Ethel here. I found another 50.
Yeah.
I am, So, because wow.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Because if there's if you were doing it on purpose as art, if somebody said to you, oh, actually, this was my process. Like David Bowie did art like this sometimes, right?
Right, yeah.
So if you were as an artist saying, yeah, this is how we put together this modernist poetry, I literally just read from different books. There's Shakespeare, there's the phone book. I was reading the phone book and I saw there was this woman called Princess. She lives on Princess Street. I thought that was funny. I chucked that in, I intentionally put some hard to rhyme bits in there as well. People would go, oh yeah, that's great art. That makes sense to me as art.
It's just the intention
because
of
they
it.
were doing it as a debunking way.
Yeah, it's a bit of a piss take. It's suddenly different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Princess on Princess Street sounds like a Bruce Springsteen lyric or something. That's how good it is.
Yeah. That's good.
I guess it's like, if you're at a fancy restaurant and they give you like ingredients on a plate, they can go, oh, this is deconstructed. Whereas if you just found those ingredients in another circumstance, you'd be like, that's my shopping.
Yeah.
I have to make it into something now, right? It's the context that's important.
Yeah, very true.
It feels like, I'm sure I've read stories of this, a painting will sell for a bunch of money with a fake story, and it turns out a baby painted it or an elephant or something, you know what I mean? It's like that. You go, we knew you couldn't tell splodges of paint apart. You say that this is high art, but it's just nonsense. We got you. And it feels bad. I don't know why. That makes me feel really uncomfortable. Let the art people think, believe the nonsense. Who cares?
If you like it, you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
it's interesting that somebody looked at a poetic movement and went, we've got to debunk this.
What? Well, yeah, Australian culture was so different back then.
Poetry debunkers.
These guys are in Melbourne waiting to go off to war, where they probably won't come home and they're like, I know what I'm going to do with my final days. Not with family or friends. I'll make up a poet. That's a way to kill a day. They explained that they even made up quotes from historical figures like Russian revolutionary Vladimir Lenin, who was quoted by Ern Malley as saying, the emotions are not skilled workers. And he never said that. But
That's great.
It sounds great. Sounds great. Sounds really good.
I'm the everything they say, I'm like, apart from that Princess on Princess.
I did choose that.
Else, I'm just like,
I chose it.
This sounds like it could be. I don't know.
There was also a clue or two in there that it was all made up. They put a couple of little hints in there. Take this line from the poem Sibylline. It says, it is necessary to understand that a poet may not exist, that his writings are the incomplete circle and straight drop of a question mark.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds good, but they are saying
also, in retrospect, that sounds pretty obvious.
They've highlighted the line that poet may not exist.
Yeah, that's like when people think that there's when they the Delta and Omicron came out, and if you rearrange the letters of Delta and Omicron, it's like media control. And the thing that I always love about that is that it's like secret people running the world, but they're leaving clues. If you can just work it out,
they're having a bit of fun with it.
With it. And these guys, that's a big clue. That it's like, this author might not be real.
Yeah. They're playing it like they're the Riddler. We want Batman to have a chance to figure this out.
I could just blow up all these buildings, but that's the fun in
Where's
that.
the sport if we can't get caught?
In this statement, the two hoaxers also said that the first three lines of the poem Culture as Exhibit, which are swamps, marshes, borrow pits, and other areas of stagnant water serve as breeding grounds, were taken from a direct quote from an American report on the drainage of breeding grounds of mosquitoes. And they've just put it over 3 lines.
That's awesome.
But you know what? I'm with Matt. That sounds good too.
It does sound good.
I'm into it. They're clearly choosing stuff that is believable. They're not really taking the piss.
I'm sure I could read you a bit of T.S. Eliot now, and we'd all be like, oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that could be a fun game, bullshit or not.
Exactly. That's fun. The statement also said that despite the dupe taking in Max Harris and many others that he showed the work to, it doesn't prove their lack of intelligence. They write, it proves something far more interesting. It proves that a literary fashion can become so hypnotically powerful that it can suspend the operation of critical intelligence in quite a large number of people. So they're like, these people want to believe.
Yeah.
So they believe.
I think it is. It's really interesting. And it also makes the criticism of Stephen Orr from 2021, like, mate, how it's easy to do it in 2021. It's like, yeah, I don't think it's that good, actually. It's like, now that you know that it's
Now from a mosquito report.
Why are you even talking about it now? Like, it's worth criticism. Stephen Orr. There's villains in this story, probably. But my main one...
It's Stephen Orr.
My main one is Stephen Orr. And if you're listening, Stephen Orr, thanks so much.
Interestingly, one of the only two people that Mcauley and Stewart, the hoaxers, had let in on their hoax was Macaulay's friend from his high school days, John Kerr, who would go on to become the Governor General of Australia.
Yes.
He's the one... Is he the one who... The Whitlam one?
Yeah, he's famously sacked Australian Prime Minister Gough Whitlam.
Was he also the one who was drunk at the races?
Drunk at the races, yes. That's right. Well, that's a weird side character to be introduced to at this late point in the report.
But I found that so weird that they let two people know. One of them was their old mate John Kerr, who would go on to sack Australian Prime Minister Gough Whitlam.
What about
that
John?
Knowledge destroyed him.
Yeah.
He could never trust anyone from then on. He was like, "Are you the Prime Minister? Who is the Queen? Am I the representative?"
Huh? I couldn't tell you anything about any other Governor General. I don't think he needs a movie. That's like almost Forrest Gump style. He's just floating through history.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, not quite floating. He was pretty key in the sacking of the government. But
the only one to ever sack a Prime Minister.
What was the story about him being drunk at the races? He
got drunk at the races.
And then he spoke on microphone or something?
Yeah.
I think I'm conflating the Sandy Roberts calling.
Yeah, it's different.
Different, yeah. Her name was...
I think something Dick.
And he called her cock. She was like Miss Australia or something. Yeah, and he introduced her.
It's like Samantha Dick, and instead he calls her Samantha Cock.
That's so good from Sandy.
That's great.
But that wasn't the Governor General.
No, that was not the Governor General.
He was just slurring his words or something.
And he was there, part of the Ern Malley.
Wow.
The other person they let in on the hoax was everyone's favourite 18th century poet writing in the 20th century, A.D. Hope, who was, of course, well known as an enemy to Max, publicly taking shots at him. And many speculated that A.D. Hope was so in on the hoax that he may have contributed to it. Mm-hmm. They say, we just told him about it. But others are like, he could have been...
It was like Hope pulling the strings.
Totally a real mastermind. Because he pledged to bring Max down.
Yeah.
And
that's what he was doing.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Jeez.
There's also great conjecture about, they say it only took one afternoon, but most modern journalists are like, I reckon they worked on this for a lot longer.
Yeah.
It sounds better to be like, that's how easy it is. We write 17 in an afternoon, but most people think that.
Because they said, like, the ones you read, apart from Princess on Princess Street, sounded like they took a bit of time, you know? That one about bacteria, you don't just... Oh, no, that one they did just fully copy. Okay, that couldn't have taken too long. But
absolutely. Max Harris was deeply shocked by the hoax, but continued to vouch for the poetry's merit, a stand he took throughout his life.
I'm just remembering in year 9, I kind of did something like this as well. And it was so lazy because we had an English assignment where we had to bring in 2 poems about that reference animals, and I'd forgotten to do it. And we had to go up and read them. So I banged one out about a cat and went up and read it, and caught it by Derek Johnson or whatever. And I just got away with it because poems are nonsense. So you just like the black cat purrs it does. Look at it purr. Purring like a cat. That one was Derek Johnson. And the next one, what's the teacher going to say? They're probably not hardly paying attention.
And then you're just like, I think that one was about socialism.
Yeah, actually makes some... I love how open it is to interpretation.
Yeah.
The one thing I know is it's not about a cat.
What is it about? I don't know. I do not know.
What do you think it's about?
It's asking questions. I know that.
Not about cats.
Certainly not about cats.
So I can rule that out.
You're the modern day Ern Malley then.
Yeah.
Well, ErnMalley.net writes, whether they liked it or not, Max Harris asserted that Mcauley and Stewart had written their best poetry, their only poetry of real genius. the assumed persona of Ern Malley had liberated them. He kept saying
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So he's doubled down.
He's doubled down.
Well, by the way, this is the best thing that you've ever done. So,
this is actually good shit.
Yeah, and you're normally terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I like your style, Max Harris.
The most surprising thing is that you wrote something this good.
Wow. So apparently you're like George Costanza. It's opposite day. If you're not trying to write good poetry, you actually come up with something.
That is the perfect way to play it.
Yeah.
What on Max?
Double down, Max.
Because his whole this could threaten his whole career, right? If he goes, I've been fooled, and I imagine it probably take some shine off.
It was
him.
bad for him.
Yeah.
So the subsequent
school asked for 16 of the 20 prizes back.
The subsequent issue of Angry Penguins largely was devoted to the analysis of the poems, and they got a bunch of their writers and friends to give their opinions, and the merits of the poems are actually still debated to this day. There are still fans of the poem.
Yes.
Not Stephen Orr. But other people are like, this is really good modernist stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for Max Harris, who was still only 22 years old when this all happened. And he was widely ridiculed for publishing the fake poetry. Despite doubling down, there's these articles written about him like, ha, they made fun of you, you modernist dickhead. And it wasn't nice for him. Meanwhile, the hoaxes were praised. It's so big, Time magazine wrote that they had a headline: Australian Army Lieutenant James Mcauley, who fought in New Guinea, and Corporal Harold Stewart were out to kill more than an afternoon when they concocted Malley's poems.
All right, yep.
These guys should write poetry.
The Bulletin gave earnest thanks to the diggers, who were described as joint debunkers of bosh and blah and blather.
Oh. Yeah, because the mainstream's always love to take down, the
fancy new modernist.
Literary types.
Right.
Like, they're a bit hoity-toity.
Yeah.
I knew it didn't make sense.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I knew it was dumb.
Yeah, when I didn't get it.
No, I wasn't the problem. I
Yeah.
knew I wasn't the problem.
These latte sippers, inner city elites with their fancy words.
So they're calling the thanks to the diggers. There's no mention of the Angry Penguins contributors who also fought in the war and never came home, but they're trying to make it like that there's these literary types and then there's these Aussie heroes.
Yeah.
Showing them for the fakes they are.
You still get that in Australian politics, right? The very wealthy it rings so disingenuous when you hear these politicians who are saying the elites. Yeah, they'd want caring about woke nonsense, and they're talking about the elites like they're not rich. Like the leader of the coalition is a super rich guy, right? I think he owns like 100 houses, and he's always talking about the battlers. And no, I don't understand why journalists don't ever go, can I just double check something with it? I don't know, is this true that you own like 100 houses? Who's elite compared to you?
I mean, also the idea that poets would be in an elite group by modern day standards. Also, like if someone's like a poet, you're like, but what's your real job?
Well, I think Ray-Ban. What's her name?
Ray-Ban.
Ray-Ban. Is it?
Yeah. Ray Gunn.
Ray-Ban.
Ray-Ban
is sort of the modern David, because she's been copping a lot of heat because she's had some public money for her university work and stuff, and her being not that good at breakdancing has opened up a lot of people who hate that sort of stuff, like anyone going to university for free and stuff like that. It's really opened her up to a lot of vitriol and whatever.
And fair enough, because we all know academics, that's where the money is. You become an academic to become a multi-millionaire.
Academic money.
And I know there's people on both, the people are attacking her for all sorts of reasons, and I don't really understand it. But yeah, some of it seems pretty ridiculous. Like, she's getting money to write academic papers. Like, I think you should be paid
That's what academics do.
Paid to do your work, right?
Just getting paid to do a work?
What the hell?
I do feel like, there's something really bold about going, I'm an expert in this field. You can just say that. Don't put yourself so out there that people can go, we're not really going to take your lectures that seriously anymore. Don't you think she maybe hurt her brand a bit for her class members?
I mean, sure. But I enjoy the information you convey on this podcast, despite the fact that you're all clowns.
Thank you so much.
Very good point.
I can separate those two things.
Yeah. But now watch me break dance.
Yeah.
Very good point, yeah.
So the media was coming for Max Harris. The conversation quotes Niall Brennan writing for the Catholic Advocate, who really took aim at the Angry Penguins.
Yeah.
At the time he wrote, "You cannot afford to ignore typhus, and we cannot afford to ignore Harris and his gaggle of penguins. It is to be hoped that the counterattack of Mr. Stewart and Mcauley may well have fatal results for this mental disease."
Oh boy. All right.
So Max Harris is copping it. And it became quite a sensational story, widely reported around the world, and all this unwanted attention had another bad side effect for Max Harris. In August, the police arrived at his doorstep to question him on immoral and indecency charges relating to the Ern Malley poetry that he had published, and he was charged with indecent publication.
I mean, I know that princess line wasn't good, but indecent? I feel like that's
it wasn't that bad.
So was there fruitier stuff? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I'll read a couple of bits now, and we'll see how fruity you think this is, Will. The matter went to trial in September 1944 with Max on the hook for the charge of indecent advertisements, for which he pleaded not guilty. Again, lots of press covered the story. Just keeps getting bigger and bigger, this thing. Detective Vogelsang, which is a great name, was a witness for the Crown and outlined the supposed indecency. The Malley poem called Night Peace mentions being in the park and had the line, "the naked and trespassing." And the police officer said, "I have found that people who go into parks at night go there for immoral purposes."
Oh.
So that's one of the most immoral parts. The other evidence was the poem Egyptian Register used the word incestuous. The poem includes these lines: "The long shanked ibises that on the Nile told one hushed peasant of rebirth move in a calm immortal freeze on the mausoleum of my incestuous and self-fructifying death."
Self-fructifying is so good.
That's really good.
I'm going to need a moment. I'm going to do some self-fructifying of my own.
That's so funny. And they now know that he didn't write it, right?
Yeah, but because he's the publisher, he's put it out and he's on the hook for it. So crazy.
But yeah, they're not able to read into things at all, because like the word naked in the park there, he's taking it very literally.
Yeah, and then incestuous. So when giving his evidence about the word incestuous, Maggie Nolan, again from the conversation, writes, "Detective Vogelsang admitted to not knowing what the word meant, but said, quote, I think there is a suggestion of indecency about it." Your Honour?
And he went home to his cousin wife. That's so funny.
So
wow, I've got bad news for like just 80 years on. If you go onto the internet, you'll have a rude surprise.
Noted literary critics testified to defend Max, but it was not enough. And at the end of the trial, Max Harris was found guilty, fined £5 in preference to a 6-week prison sentence. He chose to pay instead. He was ordered to pay an additional £21 in legal costs, which today is closer to £1,000.
Okay.
I think this is right, because while we're, his compatriots are fighting for our freedom overseas, that we're not allowed to say words like naked. What are they over there fighting for if it's not for our right to say naked in a poem? You know what? Rough.
Yeah. And the actual writers of the poetry face no charges.
None.
They're not in trouble at all. They're in the press as heroes for debunking. Max was wounded by the public humiliation, but the Angry Penguins continued on for a couple of years before ceasing after issue number 9 in July 1946. And I don't want to upset you here, Matt, but I'm going to quote from author Stephen Orr again.
Oh, no. Orr's back.
He told the ABC in 2021 that Max Harris never really recovered as a poet.
Oh, that's a shame.
Although he did try and embrace the whole saga and once again backed Ern Malley when in 1952, along with John Reed, his old publishing pal, they published another poetry journal that they called Ern Malley's Journal.
That's great.
But Max himself didn't write as much poetry, but he did have a lasting influence on the Australian writing, publishing and book-selling scene. He later teamed up with former Angry Penguins business manager Mary Martin and joined her running the Mary Martin Bookshop, which he fully took over in the 60s and became one of Australia's best booksellers with shops across the country. You've heard of?
Yeah.
He sold the business in the late 70s, but there's still a few left in Melbourne, in South Bank, Port Melbourne, and there's one at the Queen Vic Market as well, still with the same name.
What's the name, sorry?
Mary Martin.
Mary Martin,
cool.
yeah. So he was instrumental in that, and that's what he did for a long time. He also co-founded the Australian Book Review, devoted to critically reviewing Australian literature, and wrote a column for the Australian newspaper for 27 years. According to the ADB again, in 1973, the owner of the newspaper, Rupert Murdoch, said, "Every society needs a Max to identify its successes as well as its failures, its forlorn hopes and its lost causes, and also to shake it out of its smugness and hypocrisy, to act as a catalyst and an irritant."
Jeez, Rupert's changed a bit, hasn't he? That doesn't sound like something he would say now. Shaking us out of arrogance and... Yeah, weird.
Yeah, it's weird that like Rupert Murdoch being a fan of his makes me not like him. Just immediately suspicious.
So what kind of guy?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, he deserved what came to him. That's what I'm hearing.
Mary Martin Bookshop, that was pretty good though. A collection, so he continued to write poetry, but I believe he didn't publish it himself anymore, which is a bit sad. But a collection of his work was published posthumously by the National Library of Australia as The Angry Penguin.
Great.
He was made an officer of the
It'd
Order.
be great if it turned out later that it wasn't his work and it was just compilations of other things. In an ultimate.
That would be sick. Or he wasn't really dead.
He won a few more prizes before death and also after death.
Couldn't help himself.
He was made an officer of the Order of Australia. The Alumni Association of Adelaide University awarded him the title of Father of Modernism in the Australian Arts. He died in 1995, but in 2018 he was inducted into the Australian Media Hall of Fame. So he couldn't help getting those honours.
Wow.
And as for the hoaxes, well, Macaulay, Stewart and A.D. Hope, the 18th century's best 20th century poet, made their serious poetry debuts in 1946, being published in H.M. Green's anthology Modern Australian Poetry. Their hoax and the public ridicule of modernism actually had a real effect on poetry in Australia for decades after this. In 1964, the poet and journalist Ronald McQuaig claimed that the hoax determined the way English literature would be taught in universities and in Australia for generations, and that Macaulay and Hope gained academic authority through the notoriety generated by the hoax. Modernism was for a long time dismissed in this country because of this whole debacle. People were like, if it's that easy to get published, they stopped reading anything else. It's funny that despite trying to ridicule modernism with poetry that they claim they came up with in one afternoon, and then dedicating their lives to what they considered a superior art form, the opening line of Harold Stewart's Wikipedia page says it all. It says, Harold Frederick Stewart, date of birth, date of death, also 1995, was an Australian poet and Oriental scholar. He is chiefly remembered alongside poet James Macaulay as a co-creator of the Ern Malley literary hoax. So 80 years on, the hoax has stuck around. And it's like his most famous achievement.
And this is the art.
This is the art. Smoke bomb.
And yeah, 80 years later, Ern Malley still has fans. Like I said, the poetry is still widely read and talked about. Something that not many of the other poets of their day can say, which is so crazy.
I love it.
And some contend that by dropping all inhibitions and treating the writing like modernist style as a bit of a joke, they dropped their facade completely and wrote some truly good poetry, even if accidentally. And I thought I'd finish with another final reading from Ern Malley. This is the poem Petite Testament. In the 25th year of my age, I find myself to be a dromedary that has run short of water between one oasis and the next mirage, and having despaired of ever making my obsessions intelligible, I am content at last to be the sole clerk of my metamorphosis. Begin here. In the year 1943, I resigned to the living all collateral images, reserving to myself a man's inalienable right to be sad at his own funeral.
Again, that sounds good to me.
That sounds pretty good to me too. I got to be honest.
I think they accidentally just were really good at poetry for us.
Oh, there it is. That's the story of Australia's greatest literary hoax.
Wow.
Oh, that was great, Dave. Yeah, I'm so glad.
That was really good. I enjoyed that very much.
When I discovered the story, I hadn't heard of it either. So it had been suggested by those people in the hat, and I was looking for a hoax to talk about. I thought that'd be a fun thing to put up for the vote for our Patreon supporters, and I was just really, intrigued by the whole bit and the ongoing debate 8 decades later. Is it good? Is it?
In the back of my mind, I was thinking, you're telling us the backstory of Max because he is going to be Malley.
Yeah.
But, I love the twist. Fantastic stuff. And the fact that it was my uncle as well.
That's right.
Harry. Probably an uncle. Where is he from? Is he from Melbourne?
Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for joining us, Will.
I appreciate it. I just feel like I'm going to get tism more.
Yeah.
That's the real thing I'm going to want.
That was the aim here today.
I'm definitely going to... I've just never really critically analysed many of their lyrics. I just find them... They're very catchy and fun.
Yeah.
And the stuff I get is fun and funny. But, the literary stuff, I'm like, I get that he was an author or he was some sort of a... Like, there's one all about, like, feminist stuff. Like...
Yeah.
That's deep,
You
man.
heard it. It took you a second, but you definitely heard it.
Yeah. There's, a lot of good stuff in there. And I just think it's really cool and clever and interesting. So,
that's right.
When I was reading about this, Matt, I was thinking about how sometimes Matt and I are both big fans of Nick Cave, and we sometimes send each other like lyrics out of context of his, because he's also
I was thinking
takes his writing very seriously, and he sits down at a typewriter every day, 9 to 5. Busts out whatever comes to him, and then he turns them into these songs. But sometimes they are outrageous, the lyrics. Like, my favorite is from Elephant's song, I am a Botticelli Venus with a penis, riding an enormous scalloped fan.
It's like,
It's
it comes
similar.
out, there is no Nick Cave. It's been an elaborate art school prank.
Yeah, and we love him, but
for
there's some
40 years.
And people, like, he is seen as a great writer and everything, but some of it you go, are you taking the piss out of us? Are you Ern Malley?
Nick, what are you doing?
Right.
There was that one about from an old Bad Seed song where he talks about what's her name? You used to be your favorite one about Miley Cyrus. It's a virus or something.
Hannah Montana crosses the African savannah.
Yeah.
That's not a lyric. That's not a lyric. No.
Nick, what are you talking about? Like, I laugh because it was part of his 20,000 Days on Earth, his documentary, him writing that song. I had to pause it because I laughed so hard. I'm like, that is a parody of Nick Cave.
Yes.
Hannah Montana crosses the
African savannah. And there's like heaps of... The more you listen, you're like, one of my favourite ones from the same one as the Botticelli Penis album. He goes, he says, I take off my tap dancing shoes and put on my lap dancing shoes. You're fucking with us, aren't you?
It's so funny.
So good. Or is it? I didn't know. Like,
or is it?
Hey,
well,
making us think.
You know what? I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
I love it too. Will, thank you so much
Thank
for joining us. Now, you do so many podcasts, and they're all fantastic. And they've recently, over the last year or so, come together under one banner. We can find them all in one spot.
Thank you, Dave. That was very well explained. I appreciate it. Yes, they are all in the Everyone Relax feed, wherever you find podcasts. So there is 4 different podcasts there, but they're all within our world, and they're all within that one feed.
And if, because we got a bunch of, majority of our listeners overseas, and I talk about Aussie Rules Footy a bunch, but you've got a weekly podcast about Aussie Rules Footy.
A weekly Australian Rules football podcast called Two Guys, One Cup. We call it an AFL adjacent podcast. So if you are someone who doesn't really follow the AFL, I think it's like a show you can still listen to because we talk about a lot of side issues around the sport.
There's not a lot of analysis.
No. In fact, that's the weakest spot if we ever stumble into that area. Hairstyles, club songs, whether the players wash their own socks, storylines between whether they're friends or not. It's that sort of vibe. And then we have 2 podcasts Charlie and I sort of do it together. But then I have an interview podcast called Willosophy, where I talk to people about their life philosophy, and Jess has been a guest on that. So if people want to have a...
Yeah, check that. It's a great episode.
It was really fun. So,
I think I've been on a couple episodes of faux fop as well, which would be...
well, Tofop with Friends is now what that is
Tofop
called.
with Friends, sorry.
But yes, that's correct. And
one of them, me and Charlie just spoke about Limp Bizkit for like an hour, I think.
Sometimes...
Unplanned, and just some reason we...
Look, yes, like that is what our world is. Yeah. It is, like, you're just here for whatever it is. I told you that we've got a regular thing now where we're just trying different biscuits on the podcast. It has no reason other than we thought it'd be nice when we did the podcast to eat a biscuit.
To have a biscuit.
That's so good.
A treat for you.
Yeah.
Oh, Cookie. What's the segment called?
No, we don't have a name for the segment. That's literally how. But we have been saying, let's crack the pack.
That's out on t-shirts soon, isn't it? Let's crack the pack.
Let's crack the pack. It's time to crack the pack.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, so people can check it out. Everyone relax.
Wil Anderson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As we say goodbye to Wil Anderson, we say hello, Patreon supporters.
Hello!
I know you've skipped ahead. Again, I've said this before, but really a great episode. Worth going back and listening to.
Yeah, good first episode for the Patreon supporters to listen to, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's
good entry level.
Good entry level episode, yeah.
I mean, they did vote for it, so.
That's right. Miley Cyrus floats in a swimming pool in Toluca Lake. There's another Nick Cave lyric from that song where he talks about Hannah Montana does the African savannah. Doesn't even cross the African savannah.
Oh, does the...
It's like it's a dance.
He sat down at his typewriter wearing a suit and wrote that out.
As the simulated rainy season begins, she curses the queue at the Zulus.
There's on the Nick Cave Reddit, when I was looking this up to see if there are any other funny ones, there's a post about funniest Nick Cave lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
And one is, I can't even remember this one, but my baby calls me the Loch Ness Monster. 2 great big humps, and then I'm gone.
Yeah, that's I think that's from that same album, isn't it?
Oh, I can't remember that. I'll look it up. That's from Grinderman.
Oh, Grinderman.
Worm Tamer.
Oh, yeah. The Worm Tamer. That's a great song, actually. And I'm looking up another song off that Grinderman 2 album as well, which has a lyric. It's called Palaces of Montezuma, and it's sort of like everything I'll give you. I guess it's saying how much I love you, I'll give you everything. He says stuff like psychedelic invocations of Matahari at the station, I give to you. A Java princess of Hindu birth, a woman of flesh, a child of the earth, I give to you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Take it.
I'm okay.
Yeah, no thank you.
The spider goddess and the needle boy, the slave dwarves they employ, I give to you. Okay, thank you so much. But what's the spinal cord of JFK wrapped in Marilyn Monroe's negligee? I give to you. I've actually already got one.
Thank you.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
One more from me. Far from me, but the lyrics someone's posted. It's good to hear you're doing well, but really, can't you find somebody else that you can ring and tell?
Yeah. Cold. It's kind of clunky as well.
I know, Nick. Well, we love him.
Oh, no doubt about that.
We are not making fun. We love him.
I have been talking about the song, what I was calling T.S. Eliot, He Wanker. It's actually Mr. Eliot, He Wanker. And that's alluding to...
A different Eliot.
Well, no, it's all about T.S. Eliot, but it alludes to the T.S. Eliot poem, The Hollow Man, which has the epigraph, Mr. Kurtz, he dead. So it's a play on that. Mr. Eliot, he wanker.
That's good. Okay, I've got to get to the bottom of that one.
But can I read you the lyrics? Because I think this is poetry. Well, T.S. Eliot turned the radio, couldn't get rid of the static. Serves him right for being so enigmatic. T.S. Eliot crashed his motor car, snapped a clutch cable. I bet you my youngest daughter could drink him under the table. T.S. Eliot lost his wallet when he went into town. Serves him right for hanging out with the likes of Ezra Pound. T.S. Eliot thinks he's famous because he's a genius. But don't you know I'm ambivalent about the modernist achievements? That's good stuff.
Thank you, Tism.
Thank you, Tism. Thank you, Mr. Elliot.
He wanker.
He wanker. I think they got him there. Got him. All right. So this part of the show is all about us thanking our great Patreon supporters. If you want to get involved, go to patreon.com/DoGoOnPod. There's a bunch of stuff you can get involved in there, Dave.
Oh my goodness. More bonus episodes that you can point a stick at these days.
And should we say, this is for everyone, please sign up to our touring mailing list.
Yes.
Where you can put down any cities that you would come to a live show at. Because that's something we've just been talking before we recorded today. And we're planning probably our biggest year of touring yet in 2025. And if we know where you are and where you'll come to see a show, that really helps us plan where we're going to come to as well. And that's if you're in Australia, New Zealand,
Absolutely.
America, Canada, the UK, Europe, Asia. We got numbers in Tokyo apparently.
Yeah, it's awesome. If you want us to know that you're there in Hobart, Amsterdam, Rio, wherever you are, the best way for us to know that you will come to a show is by filling out this little form, and then it's very quick. Name, email, tick a few boxes of where you'd come, send, and then we'll just contact you when we're going to go to those places. And it helps us plan. We're much more likely to come to those places if we see the numbers on the screen.
And you can find that link on our social media. It'll probably be, it's certainly on Instagram, but it's also on our link tree. And you don't have to be a Patreon for that. Anyone can sign up to that. But if you are a Patreon, you will be the first to hear about the live shows, and you'll get discounted early bird tickets as well, available before anyone else. And sometimes we sell nearly all of them to the patrons alone.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, planning a big year next year. We've been sending out some messages today from Stupid Old, just seeing how we can, where we can go and what we can do. I'm so freaking excited.
We are very, very excited about that. And yes, and whilst you're on the Patreon, you get the bonus episodes as well. We do 4 a week, 4 a month.
Is there 4,000 up there now?
4,000
How
episodes.
many?
250.
250. The Baker's 400,000.
We do 4 a month, including our ongoing Dungeons and Dragons Do-Go D&D campaign, which has been getting a lot of love.
Yeah, tell you what, my character, not Lemmy Killmeister. What is
Dimebag Killmaster.
Dimebag Killmeister. That's a badass.
Almost as badass as my name. Terry Sharpner.
Terry Sharpner. Bit of fun.
So much fun on there, yeah.
And D&D fans have been saying that we're really good at it, which is surprising, and yeah,
we were worried we'd offend them by being so bad at it,
but
it's
been
being
very
silly.
nice getting the positive feedback.
So yeah, that's really, really great. And then all sorts of stuff. It's patreon.com/DoGoOnPod.
You get to vote on topics like today's topic. Although Dave, you said to me just off mic, there was some controversy with this week's vote.
This topic actually came second, but when I looked into the first topic, there wasn't quite enough information online, especially in English, for a full-length episode with Will. So we've done it as a Patreon bonus episode that you'll be able to listen to. It'll already be out by the time this one's out.
But I don't know what
I
it is.
I don't want to spoil it for Matt, but it's a great topic. It had the best pitch ever. That's why it won the vote. But yeah, there weren't that many sources online. And I say that like... it'll still be an over-hour episode. Like all the bonus episodes these days, they go for over. Originally we're like, we'll just do mini topics.
Yeah, half-hour episodes.
They go for over an hour. Sometimes 2.
We feel we don't edit them at all, really, and we take them for a bit of a walk.
We have fun. So yeah, look out for that one as well.
All right, but the first thing we normally do in this section where we thank our great supporters is for people on the Sydney Scheinberg level or above. They get to give us a fact, a quote, or a question, or a brag, or a suggestion. I think in a recent episode, I actually forgot that there is a jingle for this section. Oh,
yes. I wonder if anyone noticed.
Which goes a little something like this.
Fact, quote, or question.
Bong. Oh, no. He always remembers the sing. I always...
Sometimes he forgets the song, and sometimes he adds a bong.
Yeah, that's right. So, Dave, what we do in this section is people who sign up on the Sydney Scheinberg level get to give us a fact, a quote, or a question, or a brag, or a suggestion, or really whatever they like. And they also get to give themselves a title. I read out a few each week. 2, 3, 4, maybe. This week, 4. It's a bumper crop.
Wow, love it.
And the first one comes from Katie Mae Westgate, who's given themselves the title of Olympian, brackets, sort of.
Okay. This could be the most intriguing title we've had for a long time for me.
I believe this is the first time entry into the fact, quote, or question section. And
perfect.
It's a question. with Katie writing, sorry it's taken me so long. I'm just over 2 years away from the big 5-0. So I'm thinking it's the right time to have a midlife crisis. So my question is, what do you think I should do? Tattoos? Piercings?
Ooh.
These all have question marks, that's what I'm doing that.
Oh, very good.
Sports car? Find myself a himbo twink? What would you do? Oh, my title is a reference to me being a volunteer performer in the opening ceremony of London 2012, which I consider to make me an official Olympian.
Oh my gosh, you got to start right there. You got to commemorate that. You got to get the rings.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the athletes get the rings.
Yeah.
You're at the Olympics just as much as they were.
Yes. I did read an article about some Australian Olympians who are getting the rings removed because it reminds them of failure.
Oh, right. I think I saw that. Yeah, because they came 4th or 5th, then people ask, hey, you're at the Olympics, and they say,
they
yeah.
get pity back.
Yeah. Oh, what did you do? Diving or whatever. How'd you go? I came 4th, and people go,
oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Only the 4th in the world.
What?
That's so sad. Isn't it?
We got some issues.
Yeah,
here.
that's wrong. Come on, you made it to the Olympics, and even I'm so impressed that West Katie over here.
West Katie.
Yes, that's good. Has made it.
Yes, that's good.
That's good stuff. So possibly that could be a good tattoo idea.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
What do you think? Do you think maybe you just buy a sports car?
Maybe an Audi sports car, but you add 2 more rings. Maybe
the first Olympic Audi.
Olympic ring piercings. Maybe a himbo twink who's an Olympian.
That's really good.
Yeah. I think you just make it your whole personality now.
Yeah.
I'm nearly 50. I'm all Olympian. I'm all in.
Yeah. I mean, I assume that Katie's somewhere near London to be... Though I suppose that overseas performers would have come in to volunteer to be a part of it. But let's say they are. Is there any sort of British things to do?
Go to... What are those big stone henges? What's that called?
Climb Stonehenge.
Climb Stonehenge.
Illegally.
Yes.
Put you on the mark on it. What about...
Rappel down Stonehenge.
What about climb mountains? Sometimes people freak out and they... all the...
I don't know.
UK's
After
highest
that story
peaks?
you told us a month ago or whatever. Oh no, UK's highest peaks. That's probably doable.
Go up Ben Nevis.
Oh yeah,
1,345 meters. That sounds all right.
That sounds doable.
How hard is it to climb that?
Go up Arthur's Seat.
Okay, I've never done that in Edinburgh. Should we do that this time?
Yeah, let's do it.
When we're there in November?
I think I went up it 10 years back, maybe.
Okay, I've typed in Ben Nevis, and people also ask, can a beginner climb Ben Nevis? Also known as Pony Track, the mountain path, that sounds good. Good is best for beginners. Out and back route is roughly 16k or 10 miles long, 1,340 meters descent. Usually 7 to 9 hours. That sounds like a good... Get your midlife crisis over in 9 hours.
Yeah. And, I mean, we're talking about an Olympian here.
Exactly.
So I think that'll be an absolute walk in the park.
Yep.
So, yeah. Katie May Westgate, or West Katie, as people call you. Friends of yours call you. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Or drive up in your new Olympic Audi.
That's the best of all. And then get a tattoo on the top. Take a tattooist with you.
Fantastic.
First Olympic tattoo on top of Ben Nevis.
Oh, and go up with a twink.
Yeah. A Twinkie tattooist.
Oh, the tattoo? That's sufficient. Then you can
do it all.
drive a, like a 2-seater.
Exactly. Get a really sporty Audi with the Olympic rings.
Fantastic. Great question. Great work. Congratulations on being in your late 40s. Next one comes from Jordan, a.k.a. self-appointed Vice President of Sore Bums. This is a brag, okay? There's a twist that this is a brag. Although, what's your guess? Sore bums? All right, let's just see what they write.
Some sort of world record. Absolutely worth it.
Oh, man. Yeah, all right, so the... Jordan writes, hey, y'all. I've just had the best vacation. I rode my motorcycle. That's where the sore bums are.
Gotcha.
Almost 14 hours to go to an event. At the event, I met someone, and I'm now dating that someone.
Hell yes.
4 exclamations. She does live in another country, but that's besides the point. On my ride home, I managed to get an iron butt, riding 1,609 Ks or 1,000 miles.
Wow.
That's for the Yanks. That's written by Jordan.
Oh, I assumed Jordan was a Yank because of the yawl.
The yawl felt... I'm like, oh, is this coming in from the south?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was thinking, and if they live in another country, if it's Mexico, it's probably not that far. if they're in northern
or
Mexico.
maybe they're from Canada.
Yeah, either way, because I was thinking if you're in Australia, it's hard to ride the motorcycle to your new partner's place.
And I'll tell... Well, just straight up the Hume.
Yeah, but to another country.
Oh, it says country. Yes, it does say country.
Straight up the Hume to Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. Or, via a cruise ship. And I'll tell you right now, my bum was very sore. Was this about the ride or the date? Also,
Which date?
Also, if y'all have any advice, there's y'all again, have any advice on long-distance relationships, that wouldn't go astray. Thanks, bunches.
Have you ever done a long-distance thing?
No. Yeah, well, one time I travelled for like 6 months while my partner was at home, and the day I got back, she dumped me.
This is not the advice we need.
No, so I think I would not be, because I was young and maybe didn't understand what was going on a bit. But yeah, I probably didn't check in enough, but she wasn't checking. It was just a thing.
That makes sense.
We're just sort of, and then she's like, in her head, she's like, I assumed you were off gallivanting. I was like, I wasn't gallivanting.
I wish I was now.
I was missing you the whole time.
Oh, yeah, you were never far from my thoughts.
I like it. Well, this is nearly, coming up to 20 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't like you can text easily. A text costs like $1,300 or something.
This is a pre-WhatsApp, $1,300.
I could only afford a couple of those in a trip.
So maybe these days we would say keep in touch.
Keep in touch?
Text.
Text, yeah.
A few photos.
I mean, video
They don't
calls.
forget what you look like.
Video calls even,
Yeah, video calls are good.
But yeah, just be honest with each other. I don't know. But yeah, be open and honest. It's all about communication. That's the key with all relationships, I assume.
I would guess, and I haven't been in a long-distance relationship, but something like having a date to look forward to. Like, in 4 months, I'll see you again. Or I'll see you again in 6 months. You sort of...
Yes.
It's not...
Try and stay on the same page.
Yeah, it feels like...
If you're like, I'm never going to want to leave this city, probably let them know that. Because you don't want to be a year into the relationship and they go... You'll both realise you would never leave and you'll never be allowed to be in the same place again. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe have those sort of conversations. But at the same time, it's always nice to be in something new and feel nice and fun about it all.
And good on you. You're firm butt.
Oh, yeah. And of course, you've got a butt that won't quit these days. Literally, you've been on that bike forever.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Congratulations on the new butt and the new relationship. Next one comes from Dominic Lindner, aka proud owner of a Do Go On inspired tattoo. What? Man, we've got the 3 rings in Do Go On as well. Imagine a Do Go On Olympics tattoo.
That would actually be really cool.
West Katie, just something to think about. Nothing would say midlife crisis than a really niche tattoo like that. Anyway, Dominic has a fact writing. I've been listening to Do Go On for many years, and your podcast even resulted in a tattoo of mine. Let me just check. Yes, this is a first-time fact quote or question from Dominic. Me being German, I did not learn about Ernest Shackleton, brackets, release the slugs, all caps, in school, but on your pod. The story about perseverance, camaraderie, and endurance really spoke to me, and I now have the HMS Endurance and the route of Shackleton's expedition on my leg.
Wow.
It reminds me to soldier on even when life is tough sometimes. Thanks for being a part of mine in the last 7 or 8 years. I really appreciate you. Hey, Dominic, we really appreciate you too.
That's amazing. I'd love to see a photo of that.
Dominic, please.
Dominic, please.
Please, Dominic.
And that's the second Do Go On inspired tattoo from that episode.
Is it?
Because
someone got a slug?
Sophie in the UK, our Patreon group mum, has released the slugs tattooed on her.
That's so good.
Which is also incredible.
Sophie, and I'm so in my head about how to pronounce her name, and I know I always get it wrong because I double bluff myself. I think it's Tudor. You tell me it's Shooter.
Did you notice that I didn't say her name because I'm too scared? I'm sorry, Sophie.
I think it's
We know
Tudor.
you, we've met you, but I'm...
I think it's Tudor.
Sophie Tudor, I'll say it now, has a great tattoo.
On your Sophie Tudor, let us know that I've probably done it again because I flip the two and I go, Dave always says it wrong. And he says shooter.
I know.
So it's Tudor, but now I may have mixed those around. But I'm pretty sure it's Sophie Tudor. Anyway, on your Sophie, you haven't even written in. Thank you so much, Dominic. That's sick.
Yeah,
Let's
I love that.
release the photo of the tattoo. And finally this week, Simon Ma, a.k.a. Uncle Simon of the pod, turned up to your sports ball game, champ. I wouldn't miss it for the world here.
Thanks, Simon.
I've got you some orange slices.
Thanks,
Simon. Thanks, Unky.
Unky Simon.
Always comes in with the slices right at the right time. Do you think that makes him Sophie's brother?
I think it does.
She's pod mum.
He's pod uncle.
Pod uncle. Anywho, Simon writes, I've got a question. Hi, pod gang. Hope, this is a cool uncle stuff. Pod gang, right off the bat.
That's cool.
Hope it's hanging well.
This is a cool uncle.
That's cool uncle stuff. He's doing shockers, I'm sure.
Yeah, hope it's hanging well, my guys.
Here's a little nip of Jim Beam. Don't tell your dad.
A little sip like that.
Last time, she's becoming like maybe a bit of an iffy uncle. Last time I asked the 5 fingers question, and it seems I stirred the pot with my piss finger answer. To clarify, error, text missing. Well, I hope that clears it up. Okay, that's classic uncle.
Classic
Funny
uncle.
Funkle.
Classic uncle. Pull my finger. Pull my piss finger.
Pull my piss finger. Anyways, I've got a new question for y'all. Oh my gosh. It's someone else from the Deep South.
Yeah, wow, incredible.
But y'all, I think y'all is gaining traction around the world because it's beautifully, what do you call it? Open.
Gender neutral.
Gender neutral. That's right. And what do we say? Yars. Maybe sometimes. Use, sorry.
Use. Hey.
Yars. I'm like,
yeah.
Yars. That's the Germans.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Use. I like use, but yeah, y'all probably is better. Anyway, what do you think is more of in the world? What do you think there is more of in the world? Legs or eyes? Now, as a tradition, I must answer my own question. Do you want to have a go before the answer? Because you're thinking like spiders, 8 legs, but don't they have like shitloads of eyes?
Then don't flies have dozens of little? It depends what bit you count.
And eyes of needles? Do they count?
Yeah, but then legs of chairs.
Oh yeah.
Then millipedes, they've got like 100.
Yeah, how many eyes do they have?
I think just 2.
Okay.
So that's... So I'd probably, at a guess, and I'm sure we'll get some facts coming up here, but I'd probably guess legs.
Legs?
Because of the chairs. There's so many chairs.
Yes. And you can't... Do they call it stilts like on houses? Are they legs? Probably not.
Right, like a stump.
Yeah, stumps. But stumps are the lack of legs, usually.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes you think.
What are you thinking, though?
It's E-Y-E. It's not like you can't say the eyes.
The eyes have
it. Mind's eye? Does that mean everyone's got 3 eyes?
Oh, okay.
Brown eye?
If you count the brown eye,
you steal bumhole.
You add one per person.
Like Jordan's got a rock hard. Well, I guess they're around the eye, the bum there, surrounding the eye, I guess you could say. All right. Ending of a big day of potting here today.
We are winding down here.
Probably can maybe tell that. Anyway, I'm doing that. I'm starting to sound like the booker of Sizzletown's comedy club. This is the busted nut, and so good. Anyway, as always, I'm ripping off Tony Martin without realising it. So Simon answers the question saying...
But you haven't locked one in.
Oh, I'm going to go eyes just to be contrarian.
Well, fuck you.
I think I'm going to lock in the eyes there. So now, as is tradition, I must answer my own question, and I'm going to go with legs. There's lots of insects with lots of legs, but fish don't have legs. Oh my gosh, didn't consider fish. There's plenty of fish in the sea.
Yeah, they don't have any legs though.
And they all have at least 2 eyes. 3-eyed fish, obviously, has Blinky's got 3.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe chair legs don't count then.
But then it says, but there's got to be more insects than fish, right? But then, like we say, some of them don't have just like heaps of eyes, or do they not count as heaps of eyes? Just heaps of lenses or something. Thanks for indulging me. And as always, thank you for your amazing hard work at being so funny and wholesome. And a special shout out to Big Popper on her special day. Oh, Big Popper.
We love you, Big Popper. Big Popper.
I assume... For a second, I'm like, oh, that's a private shout out to someone.
Yeah.
He knows his Big Popper, but no, it's shout out to Big Bopper on a special day. Congratulations. Love you all. Love you all. XXOO. XXXOOO.
Thank you so much. It looks like 5 eyes for a fly, 5 eyes for a bee.
Okay. But probably more legs? Like, what are they, 6-legged?
Yeah. How many legs? Fly. Flies have 6 legs. You're right. The ratio's out. I'll be thinking about that as I go to sleep tonight.
Then you got frogs. You know, and a lot of animals have 4 legs, of course, and 2 eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm coming around. Are we counting eyes of needles?
Yeah.
Are there a lot of needles out there? Thank you so much to Simon, Dominic, Jordan, and Wes Cady, as everyone calls her. I hope I get to meet Wes Cady someday, and she'll say, "Hey, it's Wes Cady," and I'll say, "Oh, cool." She'll be like, "You said it quite a lot." Yeah,
Wes Cady, what's up?
Yeah, Wes Cady. Yeah, I remember.
Bring it in.
I was in a bit of a caffeine haze. So yeah, I've quit caffeine 6 days of the week. On pod day,
you go wild.
I go hog wild with like this one I'm drinking right now. I specifically asked for low caffeine.
Yeah, that was quite a long conversation between you and the barista about that.
Yes.
What do you mean, low or none? And
I'm like, well, can I have like really low? And she'll be like, well, that really just tastes like milk. You'd be better off having decaf and then some coffee flavors. All right, well, give me like a low, not too low. All right, it wasn't that long of a conversation, Dave. Fucking hell. All right, next thing we do is shout out to a few of our other fantastic supporters. And this is, of course, on episode 466.
Amazing. Almost the number of the beast.
Yeah, that's right. That was an Adam and Wil bit, you know, from their show back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this right. Adam had this joke because he's like a comedian and maths guy as well, but he did this joke about made up this band called Salmon Hater, and their hit song 6.66 is 1/100th of the number of the beast, and then I believe they got a CD in the mail. So a band just pumped out a song, sent it in, and ended up making the hottest 100 and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So it's funny you say that. 466 is some percentage of the number of the beast. All right, so Dave, what do you want to do here? What do we do for the game?
We're Ern Malley Poetry Hoax. I could say, what about I bring up some Ern Malley poetry and I dedicate a line
to
them.
fantastic. So I'll read out the names.
I should say in the show notes, as always, there's going to be the sources I used, but also I will link to, there's a website that had all of 17 poems.
Oh, great.
So if you want to go through and read a bit of Ern Malley and make your own mind up. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it a joke? Is it
good? Is it bad? Is it a joke? Is it sad?
Gosh, you're a poet.
Thank you. All right. May I kick us off?
Absolutely.
Firstly, oh my gosh, from address unknown. Return to sender. Can only assume it from within the fortress of the moles. Please and thank you, Luca M.
Luca M, can I just say, and I must go with stone feet down the stairs of flesh.
They're taking the piss, but it's funny that they're going, this is nonsense. I'm like, this sounds like poetry to me.
Yeah.
So it must have been so influential, that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, to me, this does... I fully buy this as... I would have assumed this is good stuff.
And that's from Sweet William, that poem's called.
Next up from Lawson, namesake of great Australian writer Henry Lawson. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Yes, I'm wrong.
No, sorry. What's the question?
Lawson, namesake of Australian poet.
Yes, Henry Lawson is. Yes.
Is he Man from Snowy River, or is he?
No, it's Banjo Patterson.
Yeah, I get those two confused. Is he the man from Ironbark? No, that's Banjo. Is he? All right. Because I visited his grave, actually. Obviously, he's a big fan.
Really?
I stumbled upon it when we were up in Sydney for the live Sydney show.
Oh, that's right. Because there's a beautiful cemetery up in Sydney.
Yeah, right on the beach.
Incredible views of the coast.
Malcolm Young's there from AC/DC. Was it one of the great early Australian Test cricketers was there? Maybe
Shane Warne?
No, even earlier than that. He's in Melbourne, mate.
I know. It was the first cricket. I wanted to say Merv Hughes. Even earlier.
And the I Love a Sunburnt Country writer was buried there as well. What's her name?
Merv?
Margaret. Maybe Margaret something. Anyway.
Dorothy McKellar?
Dorothy McKellar. A.k.a. Margaret to me, but probably only her good friends know her as Margaret. Anyway, from Lawson in New South Wales, Australia. That probably almost definitely is named after him, I'd say.
Yes.
John Cornell.
John Cornell, let me dedicate this to you. The children throw a ball against their future walls. The evening settles down like a brooding bird over streets that divide our life like a trauma.
I mean, again, I'm like...
That sounds good, doesn't it?
That does sound good. I feel like I know what he's saying. That feels vivid.
The children throw a ball against their future walls. That's good.
That's sick. I think this is good writing.
And that's from Sibylline, which also includes Princess.
It picks up after the opening line.
Princess Street.
Oh my God, we got another person from Address Unknown. Return to sender. Got to assume deep within the fortress of the moles. Please and thank you, Paige. What an appropriate name for an episode about poetry.
Oh, Paige. Let me turn the page, so I can find your next line, which is... We have lived as ectoplasm, the hand that would clutch. Our substance finds that his rude touch runs through him, a frightful spasm, and hurls him back against the opposite wall.
I mean, there's a bit of rhyming in there.
Yeah. That is Colloquy with John Keats, that's called.
That's again good stuff. And I like how they've used the wall again there.
Yeah.
Bit of a motif. Paige's surname starts with G based on the email address, so in case Mole Liver Paige doesn't know who she is, either that or it's a Gmail, or both. So next one comes from Carterton in New Zealand. Thanks, hello, and please, Oki.
Oki?
Do you think it could be Mark Occhilupo?
Oh my god, the Oki?
The world champion Australian surfer?
Wow, Occhilupo. Well, either way, this is dedicated to you. And in conclusion, there is a moment when the pelvis explodes like a grenade. I, who have lived in the shadow that each act casts on the next, act now emerge as loyal as the thistle that in session puffs its full seed upon the indicative air. I have split the infinite. Beyond is anything.
I tell you, that is way hornier than the other lines that they got done for.
Yeah, that's from Petit Testament, which I think also had one of the other lines in it.
That sounds like someone...
No, that was one I quoted at the end, but I love that.
Can someone please comment on my thrusting video on,
there is a moment
on my YouTube? Just quote that.
There is a moment when the pelvis explodes like a grenade. That's a great line.
That does sound like they're describing someone having a good old thrust. Thank you so much, Oki. And I thought that was beautifully attributed to Oki, whose initials seem to be CS. C.S. Eliot, maybe. Oh, yeah. I'd love to also thank this is a rare opportunity to use my French in the Patreon section. Besançon in France. Please and thank you. Freak Theory. Frock Thora.
And here is a line from Egyptian Register, which I think that's one of the horny ones because it's got incestuous and self-fructifying death. Okay.
It's so funny, like the word incestuous.
I know, and then the cop had to say, I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad.
Yeah. Dictionaries hadn't quite been invented yet.
This is a line. Magic in the vegetable universe marks us at birth upon the forehead with the ancient ankh. Nature has her own green centuries which move through our thin, convex time.
That's beautiful. We learnt in an episode not too long ago about the pharaoh Hatti, that ancient Egypt and incestuousness go hand in hand.
Michael, that'd be done for obscenity in the 1940s.
Next up from Canberra, Australian Capital Territory. Please and thank you to Alyssa, Miss Alyssa.
Alyssa, this is for you.
Oh, whoa, Miss Alyssa.
This is for you. I have been noted in the reading rooms as a borer of calf-bound volumes, full of scandals at the court. My lord had his hand upon that snowy globe, my lady Lucy's sinister breast. Where was that one in the court? My lady's sinister breast.
That feels... Jeez, yeah, they've not read all of it.
Yeah, that's from Perspective Love Song. Actually, that's the one that has Princess... No, that's a different one. That's from Cultura's exhibit.
Thank you so much to Alyssa.
Is that right? That doesn't matter. Who cares?
Next one comes from Arlington in MA in the US. aka Mouse, I guess. MAUS. I'm going to say Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
I don't know. Let's look it up.
Miami, Massachusetts, Maine. I think it's Massachusetts. Please and thank you to Sarah from Arlington.
Is it which part of
Arlington, MA?
Oh, I thought you were saying because you said Miami. I was like, what's going on here? It is Massachusetts. Thank you.
Can you read this in a Massachusetts accent?
Got no idea. What do they sound like?
Harvard.
I'm not.
Harvard, yeah.
I can't do it. That's definitely you and Jess's domain.
All right, you give me. You say it to me. You whisper it, and I'll say it.
Okay.
I really hope it says the word Harvard.
Let me keyword search for Harvard.
Imagine.
No, imagine. It would be great. I could feel like it's something that they would reference.
What about car yard?
Is there any car in here?
No, go on. Just hit us with the one you were thinking, because you're connecting on a spiritual level. The thank you and the words of Ern.
Now we find too late that these distractions were clues to a transposed version of our too rigid state. It is an ancient forgotten ruse and a natural diversion. Wiser now, but dissident.
Wiser now. So I'm like Quimby. I know Quimby off The Simpsons is that kind of accent.
It's supposed to be JFK, yeah.
Thank you so much to Sarah. And two more, oh my gosh, from Calgary in Alberta in Canada, home of the Stampede. It's on my bucket list to get to the Calgary Stampede.
Awesome.
Please, and thank you to Andre Genereux.
Andre Genereux, this is for you from Night Peace. Among the water lilies, a splash, white foam in the dark, and you lay sobbing then upon my trembling, intuitive arm.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That gives me pause. And finally, from Labrador, a beautiful spot. I've stayed in Labrador a few times, up on the Gold Coast in Queensland here in Australia. Please and thank you to Amanda Robbermond.
This is also a sexy one. I'll finish with a sexy one. I have remembered the chiaroscuro of your naked breasts and loins, for you were holy and...
The cop? What was he doing?
I know. I reckon the cop, he didn't bother reading them all.
Chiaroscuro is Damien Cowell's Disco Machine references chiaroscuro.
Oh, there you go. So the light and the dark. Is that what it is in art?
Yep. Who are you talking to?
I thought you... The chiaroscuro of your naked breasts and loins, for you were holy an admonition that said... From bright to dark is a brief longing. To hasten is now to delay. But I could not obey.
How do you spell chiaroscuro?
CHIAROSCR. So CURO.
What's the second part? CS. Chiaroscuro.
CSURO. I've looked it up here. Do you want me to read out the definition?
Yeah, what does that mean?
An Italian term which translates as light dark and refers to the balance and pattern of light and shade in a painting or drawing.
Okay. Wow. Chiaroscuro. I think he uses it like in one of his songs as the name is a DJ, the world's hottest DJ, Chiaroscuro.
Yes, that's great.
That's fun stuff.
So that's chiaroscuro of your naked breasts and loins. That is the sexiest one so far. I can't believe the cop missed that.
It's how funny is it how many Damien Cowell were like, because he's, people don't know, one of the singers in TISM and songwriters, how many references that this episode's brought up where I'm like, oh, I know that word. But until now, did not really know what it meant. But it's good stuff. Thank you so much to Amanda, Andre, Sarah, Alyssa, Freak, Oki, Paige, John, and Luca. And the last thing we need to do, Dave, is welcome in a few members into the Trip Ditch Club. We've got 3 inductees this week.
Fantastic. They are being inducted to our Hall of Fame, our nightclub, our theatre of the mind, our clubhouse, our honour roll, where people who have been supporting the show on 3 consecutive years or above, they already got a shout out, but now they get inducted into the Hall of Fame, where we welcome them in. And once you're in, you can never leave, and why would you want to? And we'll have a great time together because there's music, there's food, there's entertainment, there's places to relax.
I'm so excited to be in here. Dave, you've booked a band for the after party. We have a party every week on episode day, so new inductees get invited in, and everyone else who's already in there, because I can't leave, are still in there.
No, yes, you're never going to believe who I've booked this week. Because I think Adam and Will are going to have to dig out those old costumes, because I have Sonic Animation, who will be performing the hit you couldn't remember the name of, Theophilus Thistler, in brackets, An Exercise in Vowels.
That's right, An Exercise in Vowels. I was vaguely near it.
Yeah, you were very close, but I remember that song from the Theophilus Thistler. It's very hard to say.
Yes, because I think they literally did get it was a vocal warm-up.
Ah.
I might be misremembering that anyway. But so 3 inductees this week. I've also got a drink behind the bar, and it's called the Ern Malley. Unfortunately, it's not what it says it is. It's called a high-end cocktail, but it's actually just Jim Beam and Coke.
But your uncle's giving you a sip.
Yeah, and he's winking. Anyway, well, bro, we've given. I might walk back some of that stuff. Simon Marr is not a dodgy uncle. Okay, he's a cool uncle.
Cool uncle.
All right, so 3 inductees this week, Dave. You are on stage. You're emceeing the night. You're going to be hyping them up using some weak to moderate wordplay based on their name or where they're from.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
To really make them feel at home. I'm going to read out their name. So if you hear your name, I'll lift the velvet rope. You run on in to the club and let Dave hype the crowd up for you. And then we're all going to hang out and listen to Theophilus Thistler, the Thistle's sister, and party into the night. All right, so first up from Glasgow in Scotland, it's Wilson Deluxe.
Oh my gosh, what can I do with this? It's the Deluxe Wilson.
Holy moly.
My gosh.
Jesus.
The Ducks of our times. Deluxe Wilson, aka Wilson Deluxe. Incredible,
from Peoria in California in the United States, it's Roman.
All roads lead to Roman.
And finally from Bournemouth in Dorset, I reckon, in Great Britain, it's Daisy Mowles.
Oh my God.
An exercise in mouths.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Get loud. Get Daisy instead of crazy. Go Daisy.
Yeah.
It's Daisy Mowles, but an exercise in mouths is excellent.
Welcome into the club, Daisy, Roman, and Wilson. Make yourselves at home. I've got the ice hockey air table frosty, ready to go.
So it hasn't been thawed because I've heard from little birdie that Jess might be back soon, and she's going to be pretty pissed off when she sees the state of that table.
We've currently got 2 ice hockey air tables.
And are they both icy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got to start thawing one. She's going to crack the shits when she comes back.
Nah. You leave, that's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm very brave when she's not in. Nah, who cares?
I'd
say it to her face. I wouldn't. As soon as she's back. No one tell her I said this, please. Welcome in, Daisy, Roman, and Wilson. Anything we need to tell people before we go?
Well, basically, we're coming to the most magical time of the year.
Oh, that's right.
Next week will be the first episode of Blockbuster-tober 2025, where we count down our most voted for, our most popular, our biggest, baddest topics of the year. And this year, we're doing 2 of them live.
Yes.
Come see them. This is October 5 and 6, 2024. You can see us at Stupid Old Studios. On the Saturday, we're doing a Do Go On, followed by a book cheat. Then on Sunday, we're doing a Do Go On, followed by Who Knew It with Matt Stewart. Special guests, all sorts of fun stuff planned, and you can watch it in person at Stupid Old. That's in Melbourne, or you can get tickets to watch it live streamed or on catch up and they do it properly at Stupid Old. It's not just one camera, it's a full multi-camera setup. It'll sound good, it'll look good, it'll taste good.
Oh yeah. And that festival's got Wil Anderson on it too.
Yeah, that's right. Will's part of it. It's part of the... so we're doing our own mini festival within a festival. We're calling ours Blockbuster-tober Live, but it's part of the Cheerful Earful Festival, and Sammy P and Confessions are doing it. I saw, Willosophy, Pop Gaze. Who have I seen other
Nick Cody and Luke Heggy's...
Mid-Flight Brawl. We love those
which
guys
we've done
as well.
a crossover with in the past.
Yeah, so that's all part of the Cheerful Earful Festival. Online.
Really should have brought that up with Will earlier.
Yeah. We'll be seeing him there.
Yeah.
So absolutely, please get involved if you want to do that. But apart from that, get ready for Block 2025. The next few weeks are going to be big.
I'm going to do a stupid old tour for patrons on during those or before those live shows as well. So if you're a patron, get here a bit earlier. I'm going to give you a guided tour of the studio.
Yeah, we'll show you all the sights, all the sounds, and again all the tastes.
I might even introduce you to Dave Warnicky.
Oh my gosh.
We should set it up so you're working at your desk.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there.
You're doing push-ups?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, sorry, guys.
I'm really, really sweaty. 1,004. 1,004.
Doing curls on one arm and push-up with the other. The only problem is I don't know if you'd physically be able to do that.
No,
but
I'll have to start training now.
Yeah.
Just for that one. So you can get tickets to our shows at dogoonpod.com. We'd love to see you there or, see it on the stream. It'd be awesome.
So good. Well, I think that's all we need to tell people. Please follow us on Instagram and elsewhere, TikTok and whatnot. Do Go On Pod. I think we're Do On Podcast maybe on TikTok, but you'll figure it out with a quick search.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dave, bring this baby home.
We'll be back next week with Blockbuster-tober 2025. But until then, I'll say thank you so much for listening. And until then, it's goodbye.
Later. Because people still it's like a running joke. I think people who work at Triple J still get texts saying it's gone downhill since Adam and Will left.
Yeah, and I think...
But did you have that from shows before?
I think...
Mikey and...
So it was Mikey and Sandman, Paul McDermott, like a whole bunch of different people had done that show. Maynard, back in the day. I'm sure Mikey and Helen got calls from, like Maynard fans going, this station's been crap since they got rid of Maynard, Yeah. But I was probably the luckiest there's ever been in that every show being hated by the sort of, the audience of the previous show, because Adam went in and did a year of The Breakfast Show by himself first. And so he was kind of a buffer. I was a regular guest on his show, but I was just doing it from Melbourne. He was in Sydney. And so I had a year of, I guess, like the audience being gradually inoculated to me, introducing a little bit of poison.
Adam's getting all the hate and taking it for a full year. Yeah. But they're used to him by the time you're full time.
That's right. That's like just a little bit of me at the time until I'm fully in your system. And then suddenly I was there all the time. Like introducing the stepdad to the kids.
Slowly.
Who's that friend of yours who just comes to fun things? And then suddenly, did he sleep with you last night, Mum? So
hang on, he's been here for 3 weeks now.
So I got that. I was very lucky, but we're before the internet culture really took off as well. So that idea that you could be constantly, contacted, like we answered our own phones. So if you rang the studio, you would get Adam or I most of the time, if we went to the phones on something. And often people didn't know that. Right. So occasionally you would get a little bit of feedback that someone thought they were talking to a producer about us, not realizing they were speaking directly to us.
Yeah, you tell that, Will. Yeah. You can tell him right now.
Yeah, yeah, let's see where this goes first.
Yeah, play it cool.
To get people excited about Boost Mobile's new nationwide 5G network, we're offering unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month.
Forever.
Even if you have a baby.
Even if your baby has a baby.
Even if you grow old and wrinkly and you start repeating yourself.
Even if you start repeating yourself.
Even if you're on your deathbed and you need to make one last call.
Or text.
Right, or text. The long-lost son you abandoned at birth.
You'll still get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile.
Forever!
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Forever.
Don't forget to sign up to our tour mailing list so we know where in the world you are and we can come and tell you when we're coming there.
Wherever we go, we always hear 6 months later, oh, you should come to Manchester. We were just in Manchester.
We were just there, but this way you'll never miss out. And don't forget to sign up, go to our Instagram, click our link tree. Very, very easy.
It means we know to come to you, and you'll also know that we're coming to you.
Yeah, we'll come to you, you come to us. Very good.
And we give you a spam-free guarantee.